Good afternoon to one and all. I think we will get started. I hope I am audible. मेरी आवाज आप तक आ रही है?
जी हाँ सर.
Okay. So, yeah. I am not turning on my video for the simple reason that the bandwidth here is a problem. तो खासकर जब मैं वो शेयर करता हूँ प्रेजेंटेशन तो फिर और भी गड़बड़ा जाता है फिर से. So maybe during the interactions time, I will turn on the video, but right now. Okay, so I hope the slides are also visible in the presentation mode. So, so in today's session, there are two sessions, but we will take a break of 15 minutes, 15 to 20 minutes. So I will stop at around 5:20. We will break till 5:40, and then I will continue with the second part. So I am myself Ramanathan. I am at the Department of Chemistry, IIT BHU, where this FDP is being arranged. And I'm basically trained in Raman spectroscopy, laser spectroscopy, and computational chemistry. And I also happen to lead the Indian Knowledge System Center at our institute. So in that capacity, I am engaging with you as a resource person for today's session, which is dedicated to Indian knowledge systems. So as I told, I have divided my thing into two different parts. I hope everybody is comfortable with English. अगर किसी को अंग्रेजी से प्रॉब्लम है तो वो बेहिचक बताएं. प्रयास ये रहेगा कि मैं दोनों भाषाओं में एक मिश्रित भाषा के रूप में ये अपना प्रस्तुतिकरण दूंगा. If anybody has got any problem, you can let me know either by typing on the chat box.
Hindi or English दोनों sir, please.
Or you can just unmute yourself and say something. Okay. So on the part one, I will not concentrate more on the, I will concentrate on the need, the why, what and why of IKS. Particularly now when the government, since for the past 4 years or so, is taking a lot of attention towards this education through the new education policy in 2020, then National Curriculum Framework that was rolled out last year. How is it that it is different from the past education policies and curriculum frameworks? And what is it that it talks about Indian knowledge system? Why is it talking about it? What is Indian knowledge system और भारतीय ज्ञान परंपरा इत्यादि ये जो विषय हैं ये मैं पार्ट 1 में कवर करूंगा और पार्ट 2 में वही what comprises IKS, वास्तव में भारतीय ज्ञान हम किसको बोलेंगे, उसका थोड़ा सा एक झलक विज्ञान के कुछ अमुक विषयों को लेकर के मैं आपके सामने रखना चाहूंगा, मुख्य रूप से गणित से. और क्योंकि मैं केमिस्ट्री का छात्र हूं तो कुछ उदाहरण केमिस्ट्री और मेटलर्जी से भी मैं देते हुए अपने इस व्याख्यान को प्रस्तुत करना चाहूंगा. आप में से कोई भी जो है बीच में कभी भी अगर कुछ प्रश्न पूछना हो तो स्वागत है. आप कभी भी, क्योंकि ये फुल स्क्रीन में शेयर्ड है तो मुझे आप चैट बॉक्स में लिखेंगे तो ठीक से पता नहीं चलेगा, लेकिन अगर आप अनम्यूट करके पूछ सकते हैं तो आप बीच में भी आप सवाल कर सकते हैं. तो we know that the Indians had a very fertile intellectual past. ये कुछ लोगों को, भारतीय लोगों को मालूम है, बट 19th सेंचुरी 18th सेंचुरी में जब यूरोपियंस भारतीय सभ्यता से परिचित हुए तो उनमें से दो विपरीत वर्ग बने। एक जो भारत के अतीत से बिल्कुल आश्चर्यचकित होते हुए उसकी सराहना करने लगे, और दूसरा एक समूह ऐसा था जो कि तिरस्कार करता था, और उस वर्ग के जो तथाकथित बुद्धिजीवी रहे हैं और उनके वंशज अभी भी भारत में हैं, उनके मतानुसार भारत में अतीत में ऐसी बौद्धिकीय विषयों में से योगदान केवल शून्य है। इसको आप संकेतात्मक भाव से भी देख सकते हैं कि भारत का योगदान केवल शून्य है। कहने का तात्पर्य है कि वैज्ञानिक विषयों में भारत का योगदान कुछ नहीं रहा। तो ये दूसरे वर्ग के जो समूह हैं, मैंने जैसे कहा था कि उनके वंशज अभी भी हमारे समक्ष हैं। बहुत सारे पदाधिकारियों में से भी उनके वंशज अभी तक हमें देखने को मिलेंगे, जिसके कारण भारत के स्वतंत्र होने के 75 वर्ष बाद ऐसी एक परिकल्पना की आवश्यकता हुई जो हमें पाठ्यक्रम के माध्यम से बच्चों को ये बताना पड़े कि भारत के अतीत में वैज्ञानिक बौद्धिकीय विषयों में क्या क्या है। तो ये उस विपरीत समूह के एक सदस्य हैं सिल्वियन लेवी, जो कि भारत के सभ्यता से, भारत के अतीत से वो अभिभूत थे, मंत्रमुग्ध थे, और बहुत उसका उन्होंने खूब बढ़ चढ़ करके प्रचार और प्रसार किया। तो उसी का एक अंश मैं आपके सामने दिखा रहा हूं। उनका एक कोटेशन है कि कैसे वो कहते हैं कि जो द्वितीय पंक्ति है उनका, उस पर ध्यान दीजिए। She has the right to reclaim in universal history the rank that ignorance has refused her for a long time, and to hold her place amongst the great nations, summarizing and symbolizing the spirit of humanity. तो उसी इग्नोरेंस को हटाने के लिए, ये तो पहले विश्व भर में ये इग्नोरेंस था, और ये मान के चलते थे कि भारतवासियों में कम से कम ये अज्ञानता नहीं रहेगी। बट दुर्भाग्यवश आज हमारी स्थिति ऐसी कि आज हमारे ही समक्ष बहुत सारे ऐसे भारतीय मनीषी हैं, बुद्धिजीवी भी हैं, जो भारतीय पुरातन में बौद्धिकीय योगदान के बारे में बिल्कुल अनभिज्ञ हैं। ये थे सिल्वियन लेवी। और दूसरी ओर अगर आप देखेंगे, जैसे ही द्वितीय विश्व युद्ध समाप्त हुआ तो एक तरह से विश्व स्तर पर एक पंचायत बना, यूनाइटेड नेशन के साथ साथ एक ऐसा पंचायत बना जिसपे जो है भविष्य के 1949 के बाद के जितने भी युद्ध होने हैं उनकी रणनीति क्या होगी, कूटनीतियां क्या होगी, इनको तय करने के लिए जो एक पंचायत बनी वो थी नेशनल नॉर्थ अटलांटिक ट्रीटी ऑर्गेनाइजेशन, नेटो जिसको बोलते हैं। तो तब तक भी क्या था कि जो सशस्त्र युद्ध का एक दौर था, एक परिकल्पना थी विश्व भर में, बट जैसे जैसे तकनीकी में इवोल्यूशन हुआ, तकनीकी में प्रगति हुई, तो देखे तो युद्ध तो कई प्रकार से लड़े जा सकते हैं। अब सशस्त्र युद्ध प्राथमिकता से हट गया था और बौद्धिकीय युद्ध प्रारंभ हुआ। और बौद्धिकीय जो उपजात है, यदि वो बाजार में एक मूल्य के माध्यम से बिकने की उसमें क्षमता है, तो वो नया एक दौर खुला विश्व स्तर पर युद्ध करने का। अब उस पे पंचायती बैठाने के लिए देखेंगे तो इंटेलेक्चुअल प्रॉपर्टी ऑर्गेनाइजेशन बना, जो कि एक तरह से एक युद्ध का ही माध्यम है। वरना हमारे भारत के छत्तीसगढ़ में जो बासमती चावल उगाई जाती है, उसका पेटेंट अमेरिका में कोई फाइल करने का भी दुस्साहस नहीं करना चाहिए, लेकिन ऐसा हुआ है और हमें दशकों साल लगे हैं उस पेटेंट को रद्द कराने में। उसी प्रकार से जो भारत में अगर हल्दी का प्रचलन, हल्दी का उपयोग हजारों सालों से हमारे यहाँ पे चलता आ रहा है, तो उसके एंटी कैंसर प्रॉपर्टीज, एंटी इन्फ्लेमेटरी प्रॉपर्टीज, एंटी इन्फेक्शियस प्रॉपर्टीज पर यूएस का वैज्ञानिक पेटेंट करने का दुस्साहस कर सकता है। तो क्योंकि इसमें एक मार्केट पोटेंशियल है, उसके माध्यम से हम एक नए उपनिवेशवाद का हम प्रचलन विश्व स्तर पर देख सकते हैं। तो इन्हीं सब विषयों से जूझने के लिए 1995 में वर्ल्ड ट्रेड ऑर्गेनाइजेशन भी बना। लेकिन जो मूल रूप से एक राज्य, एक देश पर दूसरे देश का पूरा नियंत्रण पाने की ही जो एक संकल्प थी, जो सशस्त्र युद्ध से प्रारंभ हुआ, अभी वर्ल्ड ट्रेड ऑर्गेनाइजेशन के माध्यम से ये अभी भी हमारे समक्ष प्रचलन में है। और अभी 2000 के दशक के बाद जो इंफॉर्मेशन इज पावर का एक हम देखते हैं, यहाँ तक तो डिजिटल का उतना प्रभाव नहीं रहा, बट अभी पिछले 20 सालों से हम देख रहे हैं कि भले ही हम अपने कॉन्फिडेंशियल इंफॉर्मेशन को कोड करके ईमेल के माध्यम से एक्सचेंज करें, बट वो सर्वर अगर किसी दूसरे कंट्री के जुरिस्डिक्शन में है तो डेटा लीक का कभी भी ये चांसेस हो सकता है। तो it has always been one country trying to control the other country through some means or the other, and this is something that we have been seeing for the last 100 years or so. So that currently it's all the more important given the digital age and the information age that we are all in. What are those value-added information about our own civilization that can lead to a possibly commercialized product arising out of intellectual property from our country? It's very much important to be safeguarded, not just for cultural importance, but also for the country's commercial interests, economic interests as well. तो इन इंफॉर्मेशन के बारे में हम तभी जान पाएंगे अगर हम अपने भारत को एक समग्र दृष्टि से देख करके उसके अतीत को हम अपने अभ्यंतर में उसको लें। तो इसी संदर्भ में जो ये, क्योंकि पाठ्यक्रम और ऑर्गेनाइज्ड व्यवस्थित रूप से जो हमारे यहाँ पे पठन पाठन की जो प्रक्रिया है, वो विश्व स्तर में सबसे बड़ी संख्या के आधार पर बहुत ही एक विशाल संस्थान है। ये व्यवस्थित रूप में जो पठन पाठन की जो प्रक्रिया है, जो सरकार चलाती है, तो इसका सबसे पहले जिस समिति का गठन हुआ था आजाद स्वतंत्र भारत में, तभी से ये परिकल्पना अभी तक ये चलती आ रही है। ऐसा नहीं है कि एनईपी प्रथम बार इस पर रेखांकित कर रहा हो या हमारे ध्यान को आकर्षित कर रहा हो। जो मैंने एक कोटेशन आपके सामने में जो मैं दिखा रहा हूं, ये 1950 का है। तब के एजुकेशन कमीशन के जो चेयरमैन थे डॉक्टर राधाकृष्णन, सर्वेपल्ली राधाकृष्णन, उनका ये कोटेशन है जो कहते हैं कि a habitual vision of greatness is the way to cultural growth. Those who have no greatness in themselves, they are the vast majority, should live in the company of the great. Culture is an attitude of mind, an inclination of the spirit, and those who yearn for it wish to have a vision of greatness. Sit in the presence of nobility, see the highest reach and scope of the spirit of man. If we are to work for a society of human beings as high as human nature allows, we must start with the vision of great and good men. That should be the center of all education. तो ये परिकल्पना थी हमारे प्रथम राष्ट्रपति की डॉक्टर एस राधाकृष्णन की, जो राष्ट्रपति के होने के साथ साथ वो सबसे पहले जो स्वतंत्र भारत की जो एजुकेशन कमीशन गठन हुई थी उसके भी ये अध्यक्ष रहे। उसी का हमें झलक एक ये NEP 2020 में भी दिखता है, जो विद्या का केंद्र हमारे ऐसे एक विजन ऑफ ग्रेट एंड गुड मैन की ही परिकल्पना के को ही आधार बना करके NEP 2020 में बात कर रहा है। तो ये इसके अंतर्गत ये अनिवार्य हो जाता है कि we have to be aware of what our ancestors have achieved over different millennia. एक्चुअली देखा जाए तो अभी ये उपनिवेशवाद का से हम पूरी तरह से बाहर उभर करके नहीं आए हैं, तो we are still trapped in a narrative of this digital colony कि भारत में एक तरह से ज्ञान वाली बातें तो कभी हुई नहीं थी। There's a very famous quotation by Macaulay that the entire literature of the Orient cannot even equal to one rack of library in the Western world. तो ऐसी मान्यताएं थी। मैकॉले तो थे, वो तो खैर 200 साल पहले, 150 साल पहले रहे, बट उनके वंशज आज तक यही गाथा को गाते आ रहे हैं, जिसके कारण हम एक वो डिजिटल नैरेटिव में फंस गए हैं कि हमारे यहाँ वास्तव में कुछ था ही नहीं। क्या यही वास्तविकता है? इसी पर हमें आज खुलासा करना है और व्यवस्थित रूप से इसको देखना है। इसमें ट्रेडिशनल नॉलेज का जो मैं बात कर रहा था, विच कैन हैव इकोनॉमिक इम्पैक्ट, विच कैन हैव अ कमर्शियल इफेक्ट ऑल्सो। यू सी व्हाट इज दिस चेयरमैन ऑफ TKDL expert has to say. Dr. V.K. Gupta was almost 10 years back. Now the person has changed. But if you look at his statement, he was the chairman of this TKDL, which stands for Traditional Knowledge Digital Library. This was started something 20 years back. So in 2011, Dr. Gupta says the following. The TKDL expert group estimated that annually some 2,000 patents relating to Indian medicinal systems were being erroneously granted by patent offices around the world. तो आप इसमें से अनुमान लगा सकते हैं कि कितना इसका इकोनॉमिक इम्पैक्ट रहा होगा। अधिकांश जितने भी हम फार्मास्यूटिकल कंपनीज को जानते होंगे, उनका पूरा टर्नओवर जो है वो मात्र 1 या 2 मेडिसिन पर, तो जहां हर साल प्रति वर्ष अगर 2000 पेटेंट दिए जा रहे हैं भारत के भेषजों पर, और वो भी गलत तरीके से, तो आप इससे ही अनुमान लगा सकते हैं कि कितना इसका इकोनॉमिक इम्पैक्ट रहा होगा। और अगर हम भारतवासी ही अपने ही धरोहर से अनभिज्ञ रहें, तो हम तो एक तरह से निमंत्रण दे रहे हैं पूरे विश्व को कि आओ और हमारी संपत्ति को लूटो। तो अभी ये प्रयास चल रहा है कि हमारे पास वास्तव में ये संपत्ति क्या थी, किस रूप में थी। ठीक है, हम बीच में कट चुके थे, अभी पुनः हम उससे अगर अपना संबंध जोड़ना चाहेंगे तो उसके लिए हमें कुछ चीजों से पहले अभिमुख होना पड़ेगा। उसी क्रम में ऐसे अभियान अभी लगातार निरंतर रूप से चलते आ रहे हैं, व्यवस्थित रूप से, जिसके कारण हमारे संस्थान ने भी, हमारे टीचिंग लर्निंग सेंटर ने भी इसी पर जोर देते हुए ऐसे वर्कशॉप्स और ऐसे फैकल्टी डेवलपमेंट प्रोग्राम का भी आयोजन करते आ रहे हैं। NEP में हमें बहुत सारे ऐसे उल्लेख मिलेंगे जो वास्तव में नॉलेज ऑफ इंडियन नॉलेज सिस्टम्स के ऊपर स्पष्ट रूप से खुल करके उल्लेख किया है। परोक्ष रूप में, कुछ संकेतात्मक रूप में नहीं बोला है, प्रत्यक्ष साफ सब शब्दों में लिखा है कि these elements will be incorporated in an accurate and scientific manner throughout the school curriculum wherever relevant. In particular, Indian knowledge systems, including tribal knowledge and indigenous and traditional ways of learning, will be covered and included in mathematics, astronomy, philosophy, so on and so forth. तो एक बहुत ही बृहत रूप का एक परिकल्पना है NEP में बच्चों को इन सब ज्ञान के बातों से जोड़ने के लिए, भारतीय ज्ञान की बातों से जोड़ने के लिए। मैं पूरी स्लाइड्स पे पढ़ूंगा नहीं, लेकिन आपको उदाहरण देना चाहता हूं कि इससे पहले कभी परिकल्पना भी नहीं कर सकते थे कि एक राष्ट्रीय स्तर पर जो शिक्षा नीति बनेगी उसमें कादम्बरी का उल्लेख आएगा, या तक्षशिला या नालंदा का उल्लेख आएगा, या जो 64 कलाओं की बात हम लोग करते आते हैं अपनी सभ्यता में उनका उल्लेख आएगा इत्यादि। तो ये जो शिक्षा नीति है क्या कह रही है कि दिस मस्ट बी ब्रॉट बैक टू इंडियन एजुकेशन, as it is exactly the kind of education that will be required for 21st century. और इससे एक हम अपने छात्र को छाती पीटने के लिए एक अवसर प्रदान कर रहे हैं, ऐसी बात नहीं है, अथवा उनको कूप मंडूक में परिवर्तित कर रहे हैं, ऐसा भी नहीं है। ये शिक्षा नीति जो है वो बहिर्मुखी अंग भी हमें इसमें देखने को मिलता है, क्योंकि टॉक्स अबाउट इंटरनेशनलाइजेशन थ्रू imparting education in IKS, through courses and programs like Indology, Indian languages, Ayush system of medicine, yoga, arts, music, history, ऐसी बहुत सारे ऐसे हमारे यहाँ पे विषय हैं जिनसे अगर हम भारतवासी पहले अभिमुख नहीं होंगे तो हम में से कोई इतना सक्षम नहीं बन पाएगा कि अपने संस्थान में ऐसे कुछ कोर्सेस चलाएं जो विदेशी छात्र छात्राओं को भी आकर्षित करने का उसमें क्षमता रहे। अगर योग का ही उदाहरण लें तो जब हमारे माननीय प्रधानमंत्री जी ने अंतरराष्ट्रीय योग दिवस का एक विश्व स्तर पर इसका अनाउंसमेंट किया तो ऐसा था कि पूरा विश्व एक तरह से वेट कर रहा था भारत का कि भारत आए और इस तरह का अनाउंसमेंट दे, क्योंकि उसके तुरंत बाद देखेंगे तो पूरे विश्व स्तर पर योग का एक एक्सेप्टेंस है। There was absolutely no inertia or no waiting or no cooling period. It was as though the world was waiting for India to make this announcement so that everybody can take it up with pride, and that's what it has happened. So what prevents us from thinking of such kind of courses and through attracting the even outside of India, students from outside of India? So the NEP is not just introspective, not just retrospective, it's also very much progressive in nature, as it has got in itself such kind of wide and far-reaching sights and insights enshrined in it. I am very much against this. I call this in my talk as Vishwaguru syndrome. हर कोई चाहेगा कि हम विश्वगुरु बन जाए, बट हम विश्वगुरु बनेंगे भी तो ऐसा होगा कि जैसे किसी कौवे को किसी एकदम ऊंचे पहाड़ के ऊपर ले जाकर के बैठा दिया हो। वास्तव में अगर हमें वो ऊंचाई पर उड़ना है तो हमें हमारे अंदर कुछ परिवर्तन आना है। वो परिवर्तन हमें ज्ञान के माध्यम से ही आएगा। तो unless we strike it at the root of knowing what this Indian knowledge or what were the contributions in the Indian past, we will be suffering from this Vishwaguru syndrome and not really aspire or think to even go in that direction. So that's why education is always a powerful tool by which we can disseminate knowledge. And as I said a few minutes back, India has got the largest network of organized education in the whole world. I mean, so much so that if you look at some of the statistics, the number of enrolled children in the elementary school is one of the highest in the world. The middle school is the highest in the world. So when you look at statistics across the spectrum, starting from the elementary school onwards till the highest education possible, India stands as the highest because of its population on most of these heads. So unless we equip our own populace with genuine Indian knowledge, we cannot aspire to lead the world in any way. Otherwise, we'll be ending up becoming the butt of a joke. So there are multifaceted contributions when it comes to the Indian knowledge system. Myself being a student of science, I am just concentrating on those aspects which overlap with science, technology, and engineering. So this is not an exhaustive or a comprehensive list that I'm showing it in front of you. There are select few topics in which we can tangibly see, and with a lot of evidence and confidence, we can say, we can feel proud of our contributions. And as you all may be aware, you people handle higher education, which is on the college level, but this NEP, which is primarily focusing on the school education, has remodeled the current school education, which comprises of 15 years, currently is being split up as 3 plus 10 plus 2, where the first 3 is nursery, LKG and upper KG, then the 10 is 1 to 10, and then the higher secondary is 11th and 12th. The same 15 years is being recompartmentalized as foundational, preparatory, middle and secondary, and UGC has already come up with 2 guidelines for college education, higher education also, and how Indian knowledge system has to be incorporated in them. But 10 years from now, or whenever this is getting implemented, it is supposed to get implemented from this year. Say 10 years from now, we will be definitely seeing a lot of feedstock for the higher education who are empowered with knowledge of India or Indian knowledge system. But right now we are at a very infantile stage where even the faculty members have to get trained, have to get sensitized to these topics, have to internalize them, and then they can transmit it to the next generation. So when we talk of these different subjects in which we have the contribution from India, the obvious question that arises is, what is the medium? What is the language through which such knowledge was transmitted? Currently, because of the colonization and defeat of Napoleon Bonaparte, most of the lingua franca of the scientific world or the intellectual world is by and large English. Had Napoleon won, he would have conquered vast part of the country, and then we would have been speaking in French, not in English. So the lingua franca of every era has been different, and we had an epoch where our lingua franca was Sanskrit. Whether we like it or not, that is a reality, sufficiently evidenced by the current manuscripts that the National Manuscript Mission has collected, where more than 80% of the collected manuscripts are in Sanskrit. This does not mean that the regional languages or the variants of Prakrit and Sanskrit does not enshrine any body of knowledge. It is not at all the point. There are umpteen nuggets of knowledge pregnant in multiple regional languages as well, but the vast majority of it is in Sanskrit. And mind you, these are documented ones. And we have had an oral culture for a very long time, and many of this knowledge traditions have been passed on orally, because of which we have lost many such knowledge or traditional practices over a period of time. So the language, which is a powerful medium to communicate knowledge, is both a stepping stone as well as a stumbling block. I will have a few comments on the stumbling block aspect of language in due course. But at this point of time, the drive home message for me that I wish to give is that majority of our language, or majority of our knowledge is documented in the Sanskrit language. So familiarity or sensitivity to this language is of paramount importance to do any first-hand investigation as far as probing into the Indian knowledge system is concerned. And this is what one of our great public thinkers from the past had to say about this language Sanskrit. I don't wish to read it out for you, which I will request you to read it. But what I would request is, I want you to make a guess. Who would have told or written these words about Sanskrit? Since I can't access the chat box, I request you to unmute yourself and just make a guess of this famous personality who had this to say about Sanskrit. Yes, I would wait for at least one response. I mean, this much time is enough for you to type in Google and get the response also. I mean, is my voice coming across? मेरी आवाज आ रही है आप लोगों तक?
Sure, we can hear you, sir. We don't have, but I don't have answer. That's why I didn't reply to you.
You can make a guess. You can take a guess. There is no harm in guessing.
Sir, Dr. Radha Krishnan?
That's a good guess, but no. And I mean, it is my way. If I've quoted him once, I don't like to repeat him again. So it's not Radha Krishnan, but I thank you for making a guess. Anybody else?
Sir, Pandit Madan Mohan Malviya.
A very good guess again, but I'm sorry, no. One last guess. Because I'm 110% sure you all know him. He is that famous personality. And if I tell his name or show his picture in my next slide,
Sir, Dr. Visvesvaraya?
No, not Vishveshwaraya.
Dr. V. Ramanathan.
Sorry?
Dr. V. Ramanathan.
No, definitely no.
No?
I mean, I don't know whether it was a sarcastic guess or a genuine guess, but I thank you. I take it as a compliment. I am talking about this gentleman. This is from the Discovery of India. And this is what he had to say about Sanskrit. Okay, so those are
Sir, Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru.
Yeah, I mean, I've shown the picture. So now no points for guessing. So
Didn't saw that picture right now.
But anyways, in that case, congratulations, you made a good guess. That's
Thank
nice.
you, sir.
Good. So yes, whether we like it or not, the Sanskrit plays a major role in accessing the ancient knowledge, because that was the lingua franca of it. I'll skip these. Maybe I can. See, when we look at expanding the horizons of knowledge, we are also expanding the horizons of ignorance. Whether we realize it or not, this is quite it's quite counterintuitive. And this counterintuitiveness about knowledge and ignorance expanding simultaneously and parallelly is beautifully captured by this statement by the famous physicist who was one of the founding fathers of quantum mechanics, John Wheeler, who very beautifully captured this concept in these words, that we live in an island surrounded by a sea of ignorance. So I've tried to pictorially depict it here कि हम एक ऐसे टापू में जी रहे हैं जिसके चारों ओर अज्ञानता का समुद्र है, और जैसे जैसे ये हमारा ज्ञान का जो ये टापू बढ़ता जाएगा, तो आप देखेंगे कि इसका सर्कमफरेंस भी बढ़ता जा रहा है. मतलब आवर rendezvous with ignorance is also equally increasing as the area of our island of knowledge increases, right? So this is very rare to come from a Western intellect, but intellectualism is universal, and in that aspect I have great regards for John Wheeler, who could very beautifully capture this oriental concept, जिससे कभी एक अहम भाव नहीं उत्पन्न होगा कि मैं सर्वज्ञ हूं, क्योंकि यहाँ पे सर्वज्ञता का के विपरीत का एक उदाहरण हमें देखने को मिलता है. तो वो हमें एक पाश्चात्य बुद्धिजीवी से जब ये हमें देखने को मिलता है, तो ये वास्तव में हमारे लिए प्रेरणादायक है. तो इस स्लाइड से मेरा कहने का तात्पर्य ये था कि जैसे जैसे ज्ञान का भी अभिवर्धन होता है, वैसे वैसे अज्ञानता का भी बढ़ता है. तो इसीलिए हमारे परंपरा में विद्या और अविद्या दोनों को एक ही समान भाव से देखा गया है. तो इसके संबंध में बहुत सारे श्लोक है. यद विद्या विलासेन भूत भौतिक सृष्टया करके एक प्रकरण ग्रंथ का पहला श्लोक आता है, जहां पे विद्या और अविद्या दोनों को एक स्थान दिया जाता है. एनीवे, तो इसको मैं स्किप दिस. तो अगर हम मूल रूप से पूछें कि इज देयर एन इंडियन वे ऑफ गेटिंग नॉलेज, ऐसी क्या खासियत है जो कि यूरोपियन वे से डिफरेंट है या जापानीज वे से डिफरेंट है, और डिफरेंट है भी, तो वर्तमान काल में इसको पढ़ने का क्या प्रसंग क्या है, उसकी प्रासंगिकता क्या है, और मुख्य रूप से ये हमारे लिए और हमारे स्टूडेंट्स के लिए. खैर, हम लोग सब तो भी शिक्षक बन चुके हैं, तो हमारे लिए उद्योग का ये प्रश्न नहीं है, बट अगर हम इस स्टूडेंट्स के ऊपर इसको उनको हम ये बोल रहे हैं कि आप इस पे एक कोर्स कीजिए या फिर आप इस कोर्स को भी पढ़िए, तो सामान्य रूप से उनका एक प्रश्न आएगा कि इससे मेरा पेट भरेगा. क्योंकि आज हम ये चाहें या इसको न चाहें, आज वर्तमान काल में शिक्षा का जो एक परिणाम है वो मात्र उद्योग तक सीमित रह चुका है. ज्ञानवर्धन की बातें जो है वो किताबी बातों का दर्जा उसको दे करके व्यावहारिक रूप में मात्र धन अर्जन का ही एक माध्यम बन चुका है. That's the reality of the day, whether we like it or not. So we'll have to live with it. So when students will ask such questions that what is the pragmatic applications of knowing the past? Is it just that I'm doing a history of science? So as a teacher, we need to defend these questions and we need to be adequately equipped so that we address to these concerns, which are indeed genuine, these concerns of the students. So recollect a few slides back where I showed the quotation by Dr. V.K. Gupta, the then president of the TKDL, who said every year 2,000 patents were erroneously granted across the world based on Indian medicine. तो अगर हम आज अपने बच्चों को सक्षम नहीं बनाएं, उदाहरण के रूप में मुलेठी, अगर हम किसी भी इंग्लिश मीडियम बच्चों से पूछें 6th या 7th क्लास से, कैन यू आइडेंटिफाई, अगर आप उनको बाजार ले जाएं, मुलेठी को चिन्हित करो, will they be in a position to do it? But now suddenly an American scientist comes and patents a product from mulethi. Now everybody, right from higher education onwards till school onwards, everybody will be thinking about imparting education about mulethi. So yes, there are commercial possibilities as well. So it's not that studying IKS is only a course on history. It's also, it has immense potential to give even job opportunities besides expanding our horizons of knowledge. और इसी बात में एक और जो अवधारणा है, गलत अवधारणा है, उस पे भी मैं एक टिप्पणी ये करना चाहूंगा कि, और ये दुर्भाग्यवश से हमारे कंट्री में हुआ भी है, whatever there was material that at the time of independence they saw it being written in Devanagari script, they just blindly confided it to the language department or the humanities and arts department, least investing the effort to explore whether the text is a scientific or a technical text, or is it really a literature text. तो अगर मान लीजिए उदाहरण स्वरूप, अगर हमें क्वांटम मैकेनिक्स का जो किताब इंग्लिश में जो छप करके आता है, मान लीजिए साकुराई का या फिर इरा एंड लेविन का, जो लोग क्वांटम से जुड़े हैं वो इन सब लेखकों से परिचित होंगे, या रिचर्ड पी फेनमैन का जो द फेमस द लेक्चर्स ऑफ फेनमैन का जो पार्ट 1, पार्ट 2 एंड पार्ट 3 है, वो भी इंग्लिश में छप करके आता है. अगर हम उसको एक इंग्लिश के प्रोफेसर को दें, तो डेफिनेटली ही और शी विल बी इन अ पोजीशन टू रीड व्हाट इज देयर इन द टेक्स्ट, but will he or she be able to make sense of it? I'm not questioning the intellectual capacity of that English professor. Given that the subject is technical in nature, that English professor does not have the adequate training to make complete sense of the quantum mechanics despite the book being written in English. उसी तरह से अगर हम एक रसायन शास्त्र का ग्रंथ हो और उसे हम वर्तमान काल में केवल एक संस्कृत के प्रोफेसर तक उसको सीमित रखें, तो वो बेचारे संस्कृत प्रोफेसर उसको क्या करेंगे फिर उसको? He will not even bother to look at it because he may be able to read it, but he or she will not be able to position to make sense out of it. They will ignore it. And in the same university, the science department will never get to know that there is such a kind of a text written in Sanskrit coming from the ancient India, which talks about, say, chemistry or metallurgy. That is one aspect. The other aspect is, आप लोग सभी लोग रिसर्च भी करते होंगे और अपने शोध पत्र भी छापते होंगे. आप सब इस बात से भी परिचित होंगे कि there are a lot of shady journals, predatory journals, which are not worth the paper on which they are bringing out their publications. They take money and they publish all kind of nonsense. Now imagine 500 years down the line, if somebody is doing an archaeological excavation and they discover such shady journal and they try to recreate the intellectual society of 2023 and 24, will that make any sense? Similarly, what I'm trying to drive home here is, there could be many such frivolous things that would have also come down to us. So something in Sanskrit need not necessarily be taken for granted to be a body of knowledge. What is more important is we apply our critical faculty, our critical assessment, question it, engage with it, question it, convince yourself either this way or that way, and then you either follow it or ignore it. So this is partly my personal experience also, that's why I'm sharing this. And this recipe of critically assessing is also very much found in our own tradition. And I'm quoting here none other than a personality from literature, Mahakavi Kalidas, who says, Puranam iti eva na sadhu sarvam, nachapi kavyam navamityavadhyam, santah parikshyan nyatarat bhajante moodha parapratyayane buddhihi. One has to critically engage, critically assess, question, even if it is something that is from the past which need not necessarily be good. Puranam ityeva na sadhu sarvam. And at the same time, something that is modern need not always be evil. Nachapi kavyam navamitya vadhyam. Santa parikshyanyatarad bhajante. It is the wise men who exercise this faculty of critical questioning. Otherwise, it is the blind fool. It is a mark of a foolishness who would blindly follow or reject. So parapratyayaneya buddhihi is applicable for both blindly following and blindly rejecting. Because right now, as I said a few minutes back, our country, we have intellectuals, so-called intellectuals and pseudo-intellectuals of two types. One who would be ready to come up with anything and everything from Vedic literature. You talk about string theory, they will say, oh, this is there in this Veda. You talk of gravitational wave, they will say, oh, this is there in this Veda. We have one such category of people. There is another category of people who will say, there is absolutely zero and nothing else in the Indian past. And in my humble opinion, both of them are equally dangerous. One has to really critically assess, critically exercise the faculty of questioning, and then we'll have to either follow it or reject it. Otherwise, it will be just, blindly following or blindly rejecting is not at all scientific in its approach. So this one I had covered. This is also not relevant. So that is why it is very important to understand, to study and advance the traditional wisdom. I mean, just because it is tradition, why should we understand it or why should we study it? You look at some of the marvels which are thousands of years old. Two of them are being put before you. The Rani Ki Vav and this grand Anicut from Tiruchirappalli, which was built almost 2000 years back. Right now, I'm sure if you look at the newspaper 2 or 3 days back, that is from Friday or Saturday, you would read about the potable water crisis in several urban places of Bangalore. So much so that people are going into malls for just using that washroom and having access to clean water. Today we have around 1.4 billion people. The population may be so high today. But 2000 years back, definitely this was not the population. But why did they build the dam? Why did they build this step well? in Gujarat, so very famous, called Rani Ki Vav. Why did they have to conserve water? Because these are some conservative attitudes can only stem out of wisdom. So there is something for us we can learn. Are we now in a position to build something that can last for 2000 years, and 2000 years later, will some people talk about it from the utility point of view? Are we doing anything? Are we erecting any such kind of structures or inventing such kind of concepts? That's something that we need to deeply introspect and come up with an answer. This is one such utilitarian aspect of Indian knowledge system that I'm trying to share with you as a motivation to get into the subject, because water crisis is one such example. The other very touching example is the very approach towards epistemology, or the theory of creating or acquiring knowledge. I think I don't have that. I wish I could have that slide. Just give me a minute. I will immediately switch. I wanted to show one slide here. Okay, never mind. I do not want to waste more time. I'll continue with it. I mean, this has got to do with the very basic epistemological difference that we have in the Orient versus Occident. So if you recollect, in the West, the way knowledge was acquired, starting from the Greek period, all the way till the Middle Ages, the Renaissance, it's considering human as the pinnacle of the entire creation, and everything around the human is meant only for the exploitation and enjoyment of the human. It's the human anthropocentric approach towards knowledge has been the dominant narrative, the dominant framework of Western epistemology. And that's why, I mean, it made statements by this René Descartes, the Cartesian statement that I think, therefore I am, cogito ergo sum. So the anthropocentric epistemology, episteme, is one way, is one episteme, and quite contrarily is the Indian way of epistemology or acquiring knowledge, where human, like every other 84 lakh species, 84 lakh or so species, the human being is one among those 84 lakh species. So it calls for a completely different mindset to care for the planet, to care for the environment, to care for the resources, and not to exploit them. I mean, that's why in the Indian tradition, we don't need a degree in environmental conservation to come up with something like a sacred grove, or to come up with a ritual where in one of our ritualistic practices, we will have a ritual aspect of planting seed, planting trees. So many of the organic conservation approach that you can see, starting from Chipko movement till the recent Padma Shri awards that were given by this government to the Salur Marada Timmakka, or some of the tribal doctors practicing in Kerala or West Bengal, these people did not have the modern university degree, nor did they give any lecture, attend any lecture on conservation. It's from the practice that has stemmed out. And this world is now realizing, especially given this environmental crisis, that unless cultural sensitivity is not brought into the education, conserving environment is going to be a challenging issue. So things like, all of us may be familiar, the deification of our water bodies. The deification comes with regiment, like not to pollute it, not to completely rip it away from its river from the shores, not to sand mine, so on and so forth. I mean, so the capitalistic approach vis-a-vis conservationist approach has got different roots in the epistemology, and that makes a discourse on IKS, a course on IKS, an entire journey on IKS also very equally important. So that's also one such motivational factor to get into this business of knowing what IKS genuinely is. Okay. On that note, I must also caution that what is not IKS? क्योंकि अभी वर्तमान काल में पिछले 2-3 सालों से, क्योंकि सरकार का भी इसके प्रति रुझान है, झुकाव है, और कई मतलब संख्या में इन सब विषयों को एक प्रोत्साहन मिल रहा है, तो हम देख रहे हैं कि रातों रात बहुत सारे व्हाट्सएप यूनिवर्सिटी स्कॉलर्स बन जा रहे हैं, saying that okay, in this temple we had such a big magnet that certain thing was floating, and when that magnet was stolen, the entire structure collapsed. Or this was the scientific practice that was there in this particular aspect. So one has to be very careful in, calling a spade and separating the wheat for its chaff. Okay, it's not guaranteed that anything and everything in Sanskrit is a valid body of knowledge. One has to be really very, as I said a few minutes back, critically exercise this faculty of questioning before accepting certain thing. So the caution here is, one cannot over-romanticize the scientific aspects of anything and everything that we find it in the tradition or that we find it being documented in Sanskrit. So one has to, it is an intellectual process. It's not something packaged for ready consumption. It calls for investing effort. And that's where we are all getting sensitized towards it. So with this, I will come to a halt, give a pause for my part 1 of the deliberation, where I have laid a broad context for why do we need to have IKS, what does the NEP policy talks about, and what does where we need to go about. In the next part, which I will take up after my break, I'll give you a few examples of what constitutes IKS by taking maths, chemistry, and metallurgy as illustrative examples, and trying to keep it as general as possible, because I know that many of you in the audience are drawn from various departments. So this will be my take for the second part. So I see that now it is close to 5:10. We can take a 20 minutes break. Let's not log out. Let's be logged in and just mute the mic, and then we can assemble back at 5:30 onwards. I mean, I'm also here on the line, online. If you have any questions, you can type them now. I can have those questions and I can address them after we reassemble after the break. So we will break now and we will again, I will resume at 5:30. I hope all are back, but when we left, the number was around 45. I see the number is only 34. Maybe I'll wait for 2 more minutes. Now again, the number has gone down to 33. Perhaps I'll wait for 2 to 3 more minutes, and then I'll continue. Okay, so I'll let people to join as and when they are interested. So let me continue from where I left. And if you have any question, you can feel free to ask. Or in the end, we will have some sufficient time for the interaction, and we can take up questions during that time also. So this is the place where I had left, having given sufficient background knowledge, background and motivation for what and why to have IKS. What does NEP talk about it? NEP and NCF, they talk about it. And why is it that we are suddenly doing a retrospective voyage to know our past? So in the second part, as I said, we'll be more focusing on what is IKS. I also give a brief example of what is not IKS. Because many times we may have passion. Just 1 second. Sorry about that interruption. So in this part, I will give you some brief examples of nuggets of IKS from maths, that being a very common universal subject. I'll start with a few examples from maths, very common examples that can be understood easily, then moving on to metallurgy and chemistry. So numbers are an inevitable and inherent part of maths. Today, the way we use decimal system it's very difficult for us for non-mathematicians to even think of how the decimal system has impacted our thinking, because today it has become like our second nature, it is to use decimal system. But we can be really proud to have been the inventors of this decimal system and to have gifted to the world. Gifted in the sense that was because our invaders took it from us, our colonizers learnt it from us, and then rest is history. So, but even within the decimal system, numbers, today the orthographic representation of numbers are very different. This column, what I mean the orthographic representation is, we use symbols for representing numbers which are shown in the first column, 0, 1, 2, 3. And linguistic terminologies around them are unique in every language. But in India, in the Indian intellectual tradition, because most of the aspects of knowledge was orally transmitted, memorization becomes a very important skill to both receive knowledge and to retrieve and recall later. And it is a very common knowledge that versification helps in composing something that is easier to memorize. And this is something which we find even now. अभी भी ये हमारे वर्तमान समय में भी ये बहुत ही प्रासंगिक है. अगर आप केमिस्ट्री का पीरियोडिक टेबल देखेंगे तो बहुत सारे कोचिंग सेंटर में या बच्चों को ये पढ़ाया जाता है कि पूरा उसको रटने के लिए कोई एक वाक्य में परिवर्तित करने का. तो कहने का तात्पर्य है कि अगर किसी विषय को कंठस्थ करना है तो वो पद्य के रूप में है, तो सरल रूप से वो कंठस्थ हो जाएगा और उसको पद्य रूप में प्रस्तुत करने के लिए एक मतलब छंदोबद्ध करने के लिए हमारे यहाँ पे संख्याओं को शब्दों के माध्यम से प्रस्तुत करने का एक प्रचलन रहा है. इसकी 3 विधाएं प्रमुख हैं. पहला विधा है जिसको हम भूत संख्या बोलते हैं. तो आज से लगभग 30 साल पहले तक ये हमारी शिक्षा में प्रचलन में था, चाहे वो तमिलनाडु में क्यों ना हो अथवा वेस्ट बंगाल में भी क्यों ना हो. ये प्रारंभिक कक्षाओं में इसको पाठ्यक्रम के अंतर्गत बच्चों को सिखाया जाता था, ये भूत संख्या मुख्य रूप से. बट पिछले कुछ 20-30 वर्षों से ये प्रचलन से इसको हटा दिया गया है, क्योंकि कंठस्थ करने को ही अपने आप में एक अभिशाप मान लिया गया है और कंठस्थ करने की विधियों को भी उस प्रकार से बहुत ही नीच दृष्टि से देखने लगे हैं. तो उसके कारण इसको पाठ्यक्रम से ही बिल्कुल निकाल दिया गया है, जो कि गलत बात है. बट कहने का मतलब ये था कि भूत संख्या पहले हमारे पाठ्यक्रम में कभी था. अब वो भूत संख्या क्या है, क्योंकि पिछले 20-30 वर्षों से पाठ्यक्रम में नहीं था, तो बहुत लोग इससे अनभिज्ञ होंगे. तो ये क्या था, जैसे भूत संख्या को जानने के लिए सभ्यता को जानना भी यहाँ पे बहुत ही आवश्यक बन जाता है, क्योंकि इससे बहुत सारे ऐसे सभ्यता से जुड़े बातों का उल्लेख आता है संख्याओं के बोध के लिए. जैसे आकाश, जैसे उदाहरण स्वरूप अगर हमें शून्य को प्रतीत करना है तो हम इन शब्दों का प्रयोग करेंगे, आकाश और आकाश के पर्यायवाची शब्द और पूर्ण के पर्यायवाची. उसी प्रकार से अगर हमें एक संख्या 1 का बोध कराना है, क्योंकि चंद्रमा 1 है, तो चंद्रमा के जितने भी पर्याय होंगे उनको हम प्रयोग कर सकते हैं। इसमें एक शंका ये उठ सकती है कि सूर्य भी तो एक है, अब हम सूर्य को एक से क्यों नहीं जोड़ते हैं? सूर्य को जनरली हमारे यहाँ पे 12 से जोड़ा जाता है और उसके पीछे वही पौराणिक कथाओं का एक प्रसंग आता है। तो भूत संख्या को पूर्ण रूप से समझने के लिए भारत की सभ्यताओं के मूल तक जाने की आवश्यकता है। तो उसी प्रकार से अगर आप देखेंगे, 3 अग्नि को 3 का प्रतीक क्यों है? राम को 3 संख्या राम से क्यों जोड़ा जाता है? गुण अगर शब्द आता है तो वहां से संख्या का बोध क्यों होता है? ये सब भारतीय दर्शन से, भारतीय पुराण से, सभ्यता के कई अंगों से जुड़ा हुआ है। अब जो मनुष्य इन सब मार्मिक विषयों से अनभिज्ञ है और वो किसी ग्रंथ का अनुवाद कर रहा है, तो संभवतः वो अनेक त्रुटियों वो अनुवाद त्रुटिपूर्ण अनुवाद हो सकता है। और ऐसे इतिहास में हुआ भी है जहां पे राम शब्द का अर्थ भगवान राम ले लिया गया है, यद्यपि वहां पे राम शब्द का बोध संख्या 3 से था। इसी प्रकार वेद, क्योंकि हमारे यहाँ 4 वेद माने जाते हैं, तो जिस संदर्भ में संख्याओं का उल्लेख आता है वहां अगर हमें वेद दिखाई दिए तो वहां समझना चाहिए कि ये संख्या 4 का प्रतीत करता है। और बाण, और हमारे साहित्य में बाण भट्ट को पंचबाणस्तु बाणः, अब ये जो भी हमारे पुराण से कामदेव के रति और कामदेव से परिचित होंगे वो समझ सकते हैं कि ये बाण 5 से क्यों संबंधित है इत्यादि। कहने का तात्पर्य है कि ऐसे शब्दों का प्रयोग करके संख्याओं को प्रस्तुत करने का एक विधान था हमारे यहाँ पे, काफी सालों तक। अभी भी वर्तमान काल में भी कुछ अमुक जगहों में देखने का हमें अवसर मिलता है। एक उदाहरण मैं आपके समक्ष ये दिखा रहा हूं, जो सिद्धांत शिरोमणि नामक ग्रंथ है और जो भास्कराचार्य द्वारा रचित है। वो ग्रंथ के प्रारंभ में हमारे यहाँ पे इसमें एक और मजेदार बात ये भी है कि एक तकनीकी ग्रंथ कैसे लिखना चाहिए किसी भी विषय में, इसका एक अलग विज्ञान है। उसका नाम है तंत्र युक्ति, और ये पहली बार चरक संहिता में और अर्थशास्त्र में अपेंडिक्स के रूप में हमें ये मिलता है, तंत्र युक्ति। तो जैसे आज वर्तमान काल में हम शोध पत्र को लिखने का एक पद्धति है, एक फॉर्मेट है, जिसमें हम टाइटल देंगे, फिर ऑथर, फिर एफिलिएशन, फिर एब्स्ट्रैक्ट, फिर कीवर्ड, फिर इंट्रोडक्शन, मेथड्स, रिजल्ट्स एंड डिस्कशन, कंक्लूजन, एक्नॉलेजमेंट, रेफरेंस। तो ये एक आधुनिक पद्धति है। इसी प्रकार से तंत्र युक्ति के अंतर्गत भी एक पद्धति परिभाषित है और जिसको ही केंद्र मान करके बहुत सारे ग्रंथों का रचना भी हुआ है। तो उसमें एक अंश ऐसा आता है कि जिसको अनुबंध चतुष्टय बोलते हैं। किसी भी ग्रंथ के प्रारंभ में 4 मुख्य अंगों का निरूपण होना चाहिए कि विषय क्या है इस ग्रंथ में, उसको लिखने वाले के पास क्या अधिकार है उसको लिखने का, किसके लिए लिखा जा रहा है और इसका संबंध क्या है, इसका प्रयोजन क्या है। तो ये कौन लिख रहा है, किसके लिए लिख रहा है, क्या लिखा जा रहा है और क्यों लिखा जा रहा है, ये पहले ही इसको डिक्लेयर कर देना चाहिए। और उसके पहले मंगलाचरण होता है जब ये ग्रंथकार अपने इष्ट देव की प्रार्थना करते हैं, और प्रायः उसी क्रम में मंगलाचरण और अनुबंध चतुष्टय के बाद ग्रंथकार को काल गणना का भी वहां पे बोध कराना एक आवश्यक अंग बन जाता है। ये हमें प्रायः कुछ ग्रंथों में मिलते हैं, कुछ ग्रंथों में ये नहीं मिलते हैं। ये एक वैसा उदाहरण है जहां पे ग्रंथकार ने ये स्पष्ट कर दिया कि ये किस समय में ये रचा गया है। और कैसे ये स्पष्ट कराया? भूत संख्या के माध्यम से। क्या बोलते हैं वो? रस गुण पूर्ण मही समा शक नृप समये भवत ममोत्पत्ति रस गुण वर्षेण मया सिद्धांत शिरोमणि रचितः। तो यहाँ पे जिन शब्दों को मैंने लाल रंग से दिखाया है वो भूत संख्या का प्रतीत करते हैं। रस, और क्योंकि हम 6 रसों का वर्णन आता है, मधुराम्ल कटु तिक्त लवण काशाय, तो 6 रस का उल्लेख आता है। तो 6 गुण 3 है, पूर्ण 0, मही धरती का एक पर्याय शब्द है तो 1। तो वास्तव में देखेंगे तो ये 6301 का संख्या है। और यहाँ पे एक और पद्धति से मैं आपको परिचित कराना चाहता हूं, वो ये है कि हमारे भारत की परंपरा में संख्याओं को दक्षिण से वाम की दिशा में पढ़ने का एक प्रचलन है। The numbers are to be read from right to left, not from left to right. So although we read this as 6301, the actual number is 1036. So the author, Bhaskaracharya II, says that I finished writing the Siddhanta Shiromani in the year 1036 Shaka era, which corresponds to 1114 in the current Julian calendar. And the second line says, Rasa Guna Varshena Maya Siddhanta Shiromani Rachitaha. Again, the 2 letters shown in red, 2 words shown in red, Rasa Guna, would translate literally to 6 and 3, and the number has to be read from right to left. So the number this is coding is 36. So the author says, by the time I was 36, I had finished composing this work called Siddhanta Shiromani. So you see here the Bhuta Sankhya in action. So right here you can also see one of the drawbacks of this number system, that Rasa, on one hand we can decode it as number 6. On the other hand, if you follow Nati Shastra, there you can decode it as number 9 because we talk of Navarasa. So such kind of inherent drawbacks are there in this system, because of which the system is not a perfect system in its accord. I see some mics are not muted. I request people to mute their mic. Yeah, thank you. So this system is not a foolproof system. There could be sources of errors in this, but still this has been in quite an effective and impactful one. So people have been using it, and the very famous expansion for pi by Madhvacharya. The first sentence shown in blue, Vibudha Netra Gaja Ahi Hutashana Triguna Veda Bha Varana and Bahu. These are the words that are shown in blue as one word, but you have to split it based on the Sandhi rules. So once you split it, that is written below here, you can see Vibudha corresponds to 33, again a Pauranic reference. Netra 2, Gaja 8, Ahi 8. Gaja is elephant, Ahi is serpent. So Hutashana is again one of the synonyms for fire, which is 3. Triguna, again 3. Veda 4. Bha stands for stars, which means it is 27. Varana, although stars are infinite, but we identify 27 as a distinct constellation, not Rashi, but they are Nakshatra. By the way, the literal translation of nakshatra into star is actually wrong, because as per the terminology star, even sun is a star. But the observational astronomy of Indian tradition, the nakshatra is a different concept. It is just like a mansion, it's a placeholder. So that difference is slightly a nuanced one. We'll not get into that. Varana, again, a synonym for elephant. Bahu is 2. So if you arrange this from right to left, this is this big number that you see, which is a numerator, and the denominator is Nava Nikharva Bite Vriti Vistare Paridhimanam Idam Jagadur Buddhaha. So Nava Nikharva. Nikharva stands for 10 to the power 11. Nava is 9. So at least in the numerator, you can see it is fully Bhuta Sankhya. This is one of the very oft quoted, very popular quotation where we see the enumeration of pi. Like similarly, one more definition of pi, Vyase, Bhananda Agni Hate, Vibhakte, Khabana Suryai. So Bhananda Agni Hate is a numerator and Khabana Suryai is the denominator. We can understand the denominator first. Kha is 0, Bana is 5, Surya is 12. So read it from right to left. So 1250 or 1250. The numerator is Bha, which is 27. Nanda, and we often talk of Navananda, that is 9. Then Agni is 3. So Nava, Nanda, Agni is the numerator, which should be divided by Khabana Suryaihi, Paridhi Susukshma, Vavimshati De Vihrite Shere Sthulu. So this is the definition as per the Aryabhatan school. Okay, so we will come to Aryabhatan slightly later, but these are some few examples which I gave you to give the application of this Bhuta Sankhya concept. This was so powerful that C.P. Brown, when he was in India, by the way, C.P. Brown is called the father of Telugu language because he was the first guy who came up with a Telugu English dictionary. He was a British colonial officer in the 18th century. When he came across the Bhuta Sankhya system, he was so enamored by that he invented a similar system in English. Okay, so that is his way. If you see here, he said cipher 0, air, space, sky, everything will represent the number 0. And anything that has got a shape of 0, like egg, oval, round, globe, etc. So this will also have the representation number 0. Okay. So then Aries, Ram, Moon, Mesha, and like this is Mesha is Mesha Rashi. Then Ram is again a synonym for Mesha. So, and Moon is synonym for, of course, Chandra. So like that he had, and from 3 onwards he had a different rule. The number of letters in a word started representing those numbers. So this is just to show you how the Bhuta Sankhya system impacted even a foreigner. And of course, whether the system was in popular use in English or not, it is a different matter of discussion. But at least we have documented evidence that C.P. Brown, inspired by Bhuta Sankhya, has invented this system. Next, I'll give you a very brief exposition to another very unique way of numbering in India that Aryabhata had invented almost 1600 years back. This is a very unique numbering system, and fortunately or unfortunately, other than Aryabhata, nobody else had ever used it, even after him. So this is slightly a difficult system also, but a very, very enigmatic system, a very cryptic system. So what is the system? It uses the Sanskrit Varnamala from Ka to Ma. It forms a beautiful 5 by 5 matrix where you do a continuous numbering from Ka to Ma from 1 to 25. And then you call this Ka to Ma as a Varga Vyanjana or Varga consonant. Then Yara Lava Shasha Saha becomes your Avarga Vyanjanani, and they take up the numbers 30, 40, 50, 60 in multiples of 10. It will be very clear to you why this is 30 in the next slide. So Ka to Ma 1 to 25 and Ya to Ha 30 to 100. The important part of Aryabhatiya system is the way vowels are given the importance. So vowels, both Harsva and the Dirgha, the short vowel or the long vowel, are treated in a similar way, but when they are associated with Varga consonant, they represent a different power of 10 compared to when they are associated with the Avarga consonant. This will be clearer if I give you an example. This Kyugr. Now, if you see here, there are only 2.5 consonant and there are 2 vowels. What are the 2.5 consonant? It is half Kha, then Ya, then Gha. Now, the 2 consonants, the 2 vowels are U and R. So the U will stand for 10 to the power 4 and 10 to the power 5. So the U vowel is associated with both Kha and Ya. But Kha is a Varga consonant and Ya is an Avarga consonant. So that's why under Varga, Kha will take up this 10 to the power 4 and Ya will take up 3 into 10 to the power 5. Okay, then comes the next Vyanjana, which is Gha, and that's a Varga Vyanjana. Ka, Kha, Ga, Gha. It will take up the number 4, but because it's a Varga and it is having this Rakara, it will take 10 to the power 6. So this number Kyugra, represented by the word Kyugra, actually translates as 4 into 10 to the power 6 plus 3 into 10 to the power 5 plus 2 into 10 to the power 4. And the whole number Kyugra becomes 43,20,000. Okay, so this is the Aryabhatiya system where the vowels represent the powers of 10, and depending upon whether you are dealing with a Varga Vyanjana or Avarga Vyanjana, you decide what will be the contribution of the corresponding vowel. Okay. The Aryabhata had done magic using this kind of a system where the entire sign table, the first 20 entries of the sign table, each angle differing by 3 degrees and 45 minutes, is summarized in this 2 verse. Makhi phaki, makhi bhaki phaki dhaki, naki ngaki ngaki, hasjha skaki kishga shkhaki kigwa, etc. So here you may notice one thing, that the linguistic meaning to these words are not guaranteed. The system does not guarantee to give you words of Sanskrit linguistic meaning. it uses Sanskrit alphabets, the vowels and the consonants to frame words which need not necessarily have a linguistic value, but it has got a mathematical value. That is what I am trying to convey here. And as I said, the system, because it was invented by Aryabhata, it is called the Aryabhatiya system. And unfortunately, nobody after Aryabhata put this system to use because of its apparent complication. And because it does not have a linguistic value, it becomes also quite difficult to memorize it systematically. Then we have the third system called the Katapayadi system, where the name itself stands for the mnemonic Ka Varga, Ta Varga and Pa Varga, Katapa, Ya Varga and Ityadi, etc. So what is it? Like, a request to the mic be muted. You start from Ka. Please यार कौन ये mic को mute कीजिए. TLC से कोई है? जितेंद्र या बिपिन जी?
डॉक्टर है कोई जानने वाला पानी का ना वो बनवाना मेडिकल
जितेंद्र जी या बिपिन जी कोई है क्या?
हो तो सही है अगर हो तो अच्छा है
Dr. Ritu what's her name? Dr. Ritu Chikara, don't you have the basic common sense of muting your mic? It is very clear that you are attending this online meeting just to get some college certificate or a tick mark in your CV. When you people are teachers, you don't exercise your common sense at all. And it is not the first time that we are doing some online presentation. 4 साल हो गए कोविड से ऑनलाइन प्रेजेंटेशन में इतनी भी अगर किसी को तमीज नहीं है तो क्या बताएं फिर. Anyway, coming back to this Katapayadi system. This system, the numbering is for different the sequence. So traditionally it is called Kadi Nava, Tadi Nava, Padi Pancha. So Ka Kha Ga Gha Nga, Cha Cha Ja Ja Ya. So Ka to Jha it is number 1 to 9, and this Murdhanya Panchama Vyanjana, that Nya, it takes 0. Similarly, Ta to Dha is 1 to 9, and that Na takes a numeric value 0. Pa Pha Ba Bha Ma is 1 to 5, and that's how the 5 by 5 matrix Varga consonant ends. And again, you start for the Avarga. Yara Lava Shasha Saha is 1 to 8. That Ksha doesn't stand for 0, it is actually wrong. I will correct it. But Yara Lava Shasha Saha is 1 to 8. And this is beautifully also codified in this verse. Nanyava Chascha Shunyani Sankhya Katapayadayaha Mishretu Pantahal Sankhya Nachachintyo Halaswaraha. So there is a beautiful coding that is happening here. You have Na and Nya, and there is a Pratyahara called Ach, which stands for all the vowels. So in the Katapayadi system, the vowels are not given any numeric value. They stand for 0 if the vowel occurs independently. So the vowels, the Na and the Nya, they will get the Sankhya 0. And Sankhya, you have to start from Ka, Ta, Pa, and ya and start from there and start systematically giving them the number. That's what I explained in this matrix. Suppose you come across a samyukta akshara. Say for instance, Shakti. In the word Shakti, you have Sha, which is a whole consonant. Then you have Adha Ka or half Ka and Ti. So here it says you ignore that half consonant. Mishretu Panta Hal Sankhya. You take up only those consonants to which the vowel is associated. So in Shakti, the E ki matra is associated only with Ta and Ka is not associated with any vowel, so you can drop it. And similarly, if you have a Vyanjana with a Halanta, that is to which no Swara is associated, you also do not consider, you ignore that word also. So you can see that a lot of astronomical numbers and entries were done using Katapayadi. So like say for the word Vidwan. So with V is 4. If you look at this table, Yara Lava, it will be 4. And you have the second Dwan. So Dwa, again, Da is half, you need to ignore that. So you have only Va. And here, whether it is the V, Va, Vu, Ve, Vai, everything will be the same number 4. And the Na is with a Halant. So this will be 44. Even if you read it from right to left or left to right, it is going to be the same. But if you look at the other word, like say Tunna Bala. So you have Ta, which takes up the number 6. So if you look at this Tatha Dadharna, Ta is number 6. Na, Adhana, you have to ignore that. Then you have a full Na, that takes the number 0. Pa, Pa, Pha, Ba, Ba is number 3. Then Ya, Ra, La, La is also number 3. So you read it from right to left. So this number is 3306. So like that, like this one, He Vishnu Nahitam Kritsma, Kritsnam. This is actually a Phalashruti, it comes as a Phalashruti. It's both a prayer to the Ishtadevata and also it's a number. So if you look at this He Vishnu Nihitam Kritsnam, so Ha is 8, that comes at the end. Va is 4. Sha should be ignored. Ta, Tha, Da, Dha, Na is 5. Then Na is 0. He again 8. Ta is 6. Then Ka, this Repa is a consonant. You can ignore it. So this is just 1. Ka is 1. So you can take a small exercise now. And what you can try is, I will show this table to all of you. You can try converting your name to a number. Or I'll have to stop presenting. Maybe I'll give you a 2 minutes time. Like I can see all of you have 2 names or 3 names. At least take your first name. So I can see the name here, Rukmini. Or I can see the name Mala or Sushila, Manisha, Anushka, Ritu, Rajendra. You take up those in your own name and using this Katapayadi code, can you type the number corresponding to it? I give you 2 minutes time. So this makes me ask if you have any doubt. In that case, you better get it cleared now. I need some response. मनीष जी, आपको मेरी आवाज आ रही है? प्रयास करना चाहेंगे?
हाँ, मैं ट्राई कर रहा हूँ, वो टेबल ढूंढ रहा हूँ मैं,
अच्छा,
जो आपने बोला।
मैं वो टेबल को एक काम करता हूँ, अगर यहाँ पे प्रेजेंट कर सकता हूँ उसको, मैं वो टेबल फिर से दिखाता हूँ। मतलब आप लोगों को दिख रहा है ये टेबल? No, it is not very tough. Biplav. So B, pa, adha pa, la, and actually it is a va, but in Maithili and Arakhati, that va becomes ba. That's why in Odia and Bengali you have ba. So it is actually Viplava, but you write it as Biplava. So it is ba and la and ba. So Dr. Manish has tried Manisha. So this is, the number is coming as 506. Let's check it. So Ma is 5, very good. Na is 0 and Sha has to be 6. So the decoding is correct, but the number actually should be read from right to left. So the word Manish would correspond to the number 605, not 506. But your conversion is correct. Similarly, Kalpana. So Ka, Pa, Na should be 0. So Kalpana, केवल 3 व्यंजन है इसमें. Ka, आधा ल को छोड़ देना है, फिर प है और न है. तो क का हुआ 1, प का भी हुआ 1, न आपने 5 क्यों लिया? ये तो न 0 आएगा. तो वास्तव में आपकी संख्या जो है वो 11 है. तो कल्पना का बराबर जो संख्या निकलेगा वो 11 है, 110 नहीं होगा. अभी मैंने बताया था कि संख्याओं को राइट टू लेफ्ट पढ़ना है. तो अगर कल्पना 110 आता है तो उसको जब आप राइट टू लेफ्ट पढ़ेंगे तो 011 नंबर होगा, तो यानी कि वो 11 कहलाएगा. उसी तरह कुमारी, तो 251 होगा कुमारी का. सो दिलीप is 138 is actually correct. Very good. Similarly, Rashmika. Rashmika should be a 3-lettered word, but I do not know why you have a 5-digit number. It should be a 3-digit number. Rashmika. So Ka is 1, Ma is 5. So it should be Ra is again 2. So Rashmika's number is 152. Similarly, Viplava, which in Bengali it becomes Biplav. So you take it as Ba. So Ba is 3. Very good. La should be taken as again 3. And Ba is again 3. So Biplav Dada, এই নম্বরটা আসবে না. আপনার নামে নম্বর হবে 323. Similarly, Akanksha. Akanksha should be a 3-lettered number. A is 0, Ka is 1, and Ksha is a Samyukta Akshara, where Ksha is formed by half Ka and Murdhanya Sha. Murdhanya Sha takes up the number 6. So it is 016. So Akanksha's number becomes 610. So Ruchi is correct. Chai is 6. Chai is 6 and rice 2. Very good. This is correct. So good. You have got the idea of Katapayadi code. That's nice. So we will move on. If still anybody has got a doubt, I mean, we can discuss it later. So I will go ahead with my presentation now. And shift my gear slightly and talk about another very famous facet of our intellectual contribution from math again. But at the beginning, it will not appear to be like from math. In the beginning, it will appear to be from an unconnected domain called poetry. That is because it has got to do with chanda. All of you may be aware what a chanda is. It's called meter in English. A specific rhythmic pattern that is followed while composing a poetry. So the basic units of this chanda are Laghu Akshara and Guru Akshara. The Laghu and Guru are also differentiated based on the time it takes. Laghu takes a shorter time and Guru takes double the time taken for pronouncing compared to the Laghu. So all the Harsva Akshara like Ka, A, I, U becomes Laghu Akshara, and all the Dirgha Akshara like A, I, U, A, I, O, Au, all those things become Guru Akshara. And there's a small rule that if you have a Samyukta Akshara following the previous Akshara becomes a Guru Akshara. For instance, you can say these two words in your own mind. For instance, Kula and Kumbha. You will notice that the time taken to pronounce Ku in the word Kumbha is almost twice to the time taken to pronounce Ku in the word Kula. So here by convention, because the second Ku in Kumbhakarna, although it is a Harsva Akshara, that is a short vowel, Ku, because it is followed by a Samyukta Akshara, and because of that, pronouncing this Ku takes a longer time, this Ku is counted as a Guru. Okay, keep that in mind. And all the Laghu, you give the numeric value 1. All the Guru, you give the numeric value 2. Okay. So far, so good. Then let's look at this very famous chant of Hanuman Chalisa. Just for example, I'm taking it because it's a very popular one. There's nothing divine about it in this presentation. It is definitely divine on its own accord. So if you look at this word here, Jaya Hanumana Jnana Guna Sagara. So the vertical stroke is all Laghu Akshara, and this letter S is for a Guru Akshara. So Jaya Hanu, all these are Laghu Akshara represented by this vertical stroke. Man becomes a Dirgha Akshara, again the Na. It is a Laghu Akshara. Gya, this is a Guru Akshara. Remember, the Hanuman and Gyan are not the same word. That's why even though Na is coming before the Samyukta Akshara, it is not taken as a Guru. Right? So here if you give the value of Guru to 2 and 1 to Laghu, if you add up these, it will add up to 16. So 4 plus 2, 6, 7, 7 plus 2, 9, 10, 12, 14 and 16. So like that, if you repeat the 4 lines that I have shown here, all the 4 will add up to 16. But if you look at the arrangement of the Gurus, they are quite random. There is no systematic order in which the Like in the second and the third sentence, you have 4 gurus. Whereas in the first and the second, you have only 3 gurus. Right? So this gives rise to a mathematical question. That if I specify the total number, the total added up number to 16, there exist how many ways by which I can realize the arrangement of laghus and gurus? This is a pure mathematical question. Like this another example, instead of 16, here you have another example where the alternate, the first and the third are 13, second and the fourth are 11. So this is called like Vishama Vritta. So I'm not getting into the details of Chanda, but what I'm trying to drive home the point is, you can replace the same question now. If I fix the number 13, how many ways I can achieve this 13 with the arrangement of laghus and the gurus? That's a mathematical question. Okay. So like 13 or 16 or 11, if I specify the total numeric value to be 1, you can straightforward see that I can achieve this 1 only with the help of 1 laghu only. I have no other option. But if I specify the total value to be 2, I can achieve it either by using 2 laghus or 1 guru. Similarly, for 3, I can achieve it by 3 laghus, or 1 laghu followed by a guru, or a 1 guru followed by a laghu. This is linguistically important because the word kala is different from kala. Right? Similarly, if I have specified the number 4, you will see that there are multiple possibilities. So these are the total number of possibilities. Right? If you add them up, you get the total possibilities. Say, for instance, if I specify the total numeric value to be 4, there are 5 total possible ways by which I can achieve the numeric value 4. Now, if you carefully look at this last column, there's a pattern that emerges. 1, 2, 3, 5, 8, 13, 21, 34, and 55, and so on and so forth. Can anybody guess what would be the next entry after 55 for the 10th? I see there are people who are from computer science background. By CS, I inferred it to be computer science. So I'll be really happy if you're able to predict for the numeric value 10, what would be the total possibility value? Can anybody try to unmute yourself and say? I know that people are paying attention here, or am I speaking something Greek or Latin? अगर आप ये पैटर्न को यहाँ पे कुछ देख पा रहे हैं, तो ये 10वें न्यूमेरिक वैल्यू का टोटल पॉसिबल वैल्यू बताना आपके लिए इतना कठिन नहीं होना चाहिए.
Sir, is it 89?
You are exactly correct. It is 89. And can you also explain how did you get it?
Sir, adding those 2 previous numbers.
Very good. And what do we refer to it as? The sequence? It's right. I mean, 55 is 34 plus 21. Similarly, 34 is 21 plus 13. That's why our friend said the next number should be 89 because that is 55 plus 34. You are exactly correct. इस सीक्वेंस को एक स्पेसिफिक, इसका एक नामकरण है और हमारे पाठ्यक्रम में इसको हम अब उसी नामकरण से जानते हैं. Can anybody tell me what is the name of the sequence? This is called Fibonacci sequence. After Italian Liber Abaci, whether he was an Italian or a French, I'm forgetting now. His name was Liber Abaci, and he's from a place called Abaci. But today we recognize this as Fibonacci sequence. But here I'm showing you an example which is at least 500 years before Fibonacci. Definitely 500 years and almost 1,000 years before Fibonacci was even born. Because this has its origin from poetry. And mind you, in India, poetry has got a very old history. And this is the mathematical question posed by a theoretician working on poetry. That if I specify the numeric value, what are the total possibilities of laghus and gurus that I have? Degree of freedom of using laghus and gurus. So ideally, this should be called either a Pingala series or a Hemachandra series, because Pingala was the first guy who raised this question and answered it almost in 200 or 300 BC. But it had to wait for almost 600 years for Hemachandra to come and explain it. And then, but unfortunately, even in Indian government textbook, we call this as Fibonacci series. Now, there's a different type of a chanda. So what I called previous was a matra chanda. There is another chanda variety is called a Varanik chanda. There, the total numeric value is of not importance. Another value takes into importance, which is got unique combination of laghus and gurus. So you fix the syllable and not the numeric value. You say, in this quarter, I want only 10 syllables, or I want only 8 syllables. I want only 12 syllables. I'm not telling about the number, numeric value here. Then again, another mathematical question arises that Pingala himself asks, that given the number of syllables in a quarter, there exists how many combinations of laghus and gurus corresponding to that number of syllables. For instance, again, if you look at this example, I have highlighted it in blue and red because here I've shown you two padas. Namamisha Mishana Nirvana Rupam is one quarter, then Vibhum Vyapakam Brahma Veda Swarupam is another quarter. So each quarter has got 12 syllables. If you count them, so Na, Ma, Mi is 3 syllables. Sha, Misha is again 3. So every 3 I have grouped them, and for depiction purpose I have shown you group of 3. So there are 4 such groups, which means there are 12 syllables. Okay. So the mathematical question that is being asked is, if I fix 12 syllables, how many combinations of laghus and gurus I can realize those 12 syllables? So today we can quickly answer it. The answer is 2 to the power 12. But that is precisely the question that Pingala asks. That given laghu and guru, and given the number of syllables being fixed in a quarter, how many such combinations I can have? So this is one such example where if you see, there are 12 syllables. There are also 12 syllables in this. Like we see Vidita, 3, Khilasha, 6, Trasudha, 9, Jaladhe, 12 syllables. Right? But I want you to find the difference between the previous example and this example. Just take the first line. Namamisha Mishana Nirvana Rupam. Vidita Khila Shastra Sudha Jaladhe. बोलने पर ही इन दोनों वाक्यों को उच्चारण करते समय ही हमें इनकी भिन्नता समझ में आ रहा है. भिन्नता क्या है? नमामि जब हम लिखते हैं तो एक लघु है, उसके बाद क्रम में दो गुरु आते हैं, और यही क्रम पूरे 4 वर्गों में हम देखते हैं. नमामि, लघु गुरु गुरु, फिर लघु गुरु गुरु, फिर लघु गुरु गुरु. नी हर्स्व है, बट क्योंकि उसके बाद एक संयुक्त अक्षर आ जा रहा है तो नी गुरु बन जाता है. फिर लघु गुरु गुरु। लेकिन यहां पे देखेंगे तो ये विदिता, मतलब लघु लघु गुरु, लघु लघु गुरु, लघु लघु गुरु। और एक और उदाहरण देखेंगे, अच्युतम केशवम रामना रायणम। यहां पे कैसे है, गुरु लघु गुरु, गुरु लघु गुरु। तो एक ही में 12 का ही एग्जाम्पल पे अगर हम देखेंगे तो 3 ऐसे एग्जाम्पल्स मैंने दिखाए आपको जहां पे लघु गुरु गुरु 4 बार रिपीट हो रहा है, फिर लघु लघु गुरु 4 बार रिपीट हो रहा है, फिर गुरु लघु गुरु भी 4 बार रिपीट हो रहा है। और तीनों के तीन जो है मुझे टोटल 12 सिलेबल्स देते हैं। तो छंदकार शास्त्रकार ये प्रश्न उठाता है कि ऐसे और कितनी संभावनाएं कितनी संभावनाओं की कल्पना हम कर सकते हैं। ये वास्तव में इज प्रिसाइसली आस्किंग व्हाट इज 2 to the power 12. So 2 to the power 12, will be a very bigger number. So 2 to the power 12 will be exactly equal to 2 to the power 6. 16 square, that will becomes. So if you fix this n value, which was in the previous example 12, if you fix this value to 3, things become easier because we know 2 to the power 3 is 8. And how can I achieve a quarter with only 3 syllables? I can have all of them guru, or I can have one laghu followed by 2 guru, or I can have this laghu sandwiched between 2 guru. I can have 2 laghus and 1 guru. I can have 2 gurus and 1 laghu. I can sandwich the guru between 2 laghus. I can have 1 guru followed by 2 laghu, and I can have 3 laghus. I should not repeat them, and if you count them, they'll be amounting to 8. So here, the Chandashastrakara gives you a recipe not only to compute 2 to the power n, but to also systematically write all the possibilities. Because with 3 it is easy. Suppose I give you 12, then the possibility of 2 to the power 12 is going to be huge. Right? So it is 8 to the power 4. So it is like 81 times 8 to the power 4 means 8 square into 8 square. 64 times 64. So it is going to be some number close to 4,000. 4096 if I'm not wrong. So you need to first write down those 4096 in a systematic way so that you don't end up repeating. You don't do double counting, redundant counting. So you need to develop a systematic way to first write them without any repetition. That is what is given in this recipe, which I will explain with an example of say 2 to the power 4. We know that there are going to be 16 entries here, right? How to make those 16 entries in a foolproof manner without any redundancy. So he gives a recipe where he says first write all the gurus, fill the 4, satisfy the requirement of 4 syllables with 4 gurus. Then what you do for the next entry, from the left you start. If you come across a guru, write a laghu below it. And then copy everything after that. So all the 3 gurus will come. Repeat the process. Start from the left. When you encounter the first guru, write a laghu below it. Copy everything that is after that. And before this, whatever was a previous entry, you toggle it. If it was a laghu, you make it into a guru. That's all. This is only 2 steps that he gives. And you do it until you reach a stop codon. Stop code will be where all the entries are laghu. So if you carefully follow, again I repeat, you first write all the gurus, start from the left, encounter the first guru, write a laghu, toggle it, and for the remaining entries, just copy them as they are in the previous entry. Again, start from the left, encounter the first guru, write a laghu below it, exactly copy what was there after that, and then for the previous entry, you toggle the previous rows. Okay, then you continue the same process till you reach the last entry, which is going to be all laghus. This will be a stop codon, right? Now, just associate the number 1 to Laghu and 0 to Guru. And if you do this, whatever I have written in this table, if you convert them to zeros and 1, and you take a mirror image. Why mirror image? Because numbers have to be read from right to left. So you take a mirror image to convert them to be read from left to right. You see here, these are nothing but the binary notation of the decimal number. Suppose you take the decimal number 2. In the binary notation, you can write this as 1, 0. So this entry, the third entry, 0, 1, 0, 0, whose mirror image is 0, 0, 1, 0, is precisely the binary notation of the number 2. Similarly, all these things that you see, the binary representation of the number 10 is going to be 1, 0, 1, 0. Right? So, I'm not saying here Pingala invented binary arithmetic. That is not the claim here. But the claim is the binary arithmetic is in process here. The way Pingala is giving a recipe to compute 2 to the power n, in the first step, he is showing you how to systematically write them. And there we can clearly see the action, binary, the principle of binary representation in action here. Okay. So this is after you have systematically listed it out, this is a recipe to actually calculate 2 to the power n. But I'll not bother you with this. And interestingly, people have looked at the convergence rate of this algorithm to compute 2 to the power n vis-a-vis some other. There are so many algorithms to compute 2 to the power n. Of course, this Pingala's recipe is not computationally having any advantage, but people have seriously looked into the convergence rate for this algorithm also. Anyway. So, if you look at this example of 4, if you take this number 4, you see how can you achieve this 4? N is equal to 4 means you have 16 possibilities. These are the things by taking n into 4. But if you ask another question now, how many instances do I have when all the entries are Guru? It has only one entry. Similarly, you ask a question, how many entries are possible where I have 3 Gurus and 1 Laghu? So if you see from those table, you will see there will be only 4 such possibilities. Similarly, if you ask the question, how many possibilities of having 2 Gurus and 2 Laghus? And mind you, all these things are mathematical question. Question is mathematical, but the answer is being sought for composing poetry. So there are 6 such possibilities. Actually, what is in action here? Actually, binomial coefficient of binomial expansion. That is given as a cryptic code Paripurnam, and when it is expanded, you get this Prastara, which we very proudly and very famously in our textbook call it as Pascal's triangle. Even though we have evidences to show this was there in our practice 500 years at least before Pascal. Blaise Pascal is from France. So this coefficient of binomial expansion is what is in action here. Those of you who are not from math, but at least you will remember that a plus b the whole square is a square plus 2ab plus b square. So if you look at the coefficient of a square, it is 1. The coefficient of ab is 2. The coefficient of b square is 1. So these are called coefficient of the binomial expansion. And depending upon what you put it as n, we had looked at n is equal to 4. So you had one possibility where all were Gurus. You had 4 possibilities where 3 Gurus and 1 Laghu. 6 possibilities of 2 Gurus and 2 Laghus. Again 4 possibilities of 3 Laghus and 1 Guru. And 1 possibility where all was Laghu. So this is again coming from poetry but answering mathematical questions. Okay, so I will shift gear now. This brief sojourn I wanted to give you on the mathematics side. where I introduced you to the number systems and then gave you a brief bird's eye view about how questions arising from poetry or from meter are manifesting themselves as permutation and combination questions, mathematical questions. I'll shift gears to now chemistry and metallurgy for a very brief while that I have, by giving you again few examples from these areas. Okay, I want to show you this quotation. Again, I want to make a question again of possibly, I wanted to guess possibly who would have written it and what is the text I'm talking about. First, what is it that I have shown you here? It is a sentence where you talk about making 16 varieties of gold. Chatussimantaditi Shodasha Varnakaha. So, there are reference to making 16 colored varieties of gold. And then you have this methods to test, because if you have made 16 varieties of gold, you will have a variety of now gold where the quantity of gold will be varying all the way from say 60% to 90%. So how to detect if somebody is selling a 60% gold in the rate of 90%? So the second quotation that I'm showing you is a test for that. How to test it. And mind you, this test is practiced even to this day. I see somebody has typed something in the chat box, but I'm unable to see it. But let me quickly see it, what is being typed in the chat box. No, it is not. Nobody has typed anything, okay. Shailendra Sharma has raised the hand. Yeah, please tell me. Yeah, Dr. Shailendra Sharma. You're welcome. Please unmute yourself and ask what you want to ask.
Sir, I think he has not raised it intentionally.
Okay, fine. ठीक है. I want you to guess what text I am talking about. ये मैं जो आपको दिखा रहा हूं, ये किस ग्रंथ का मैं चर्चा कर रहा हूं और उसके ग्रंथकार कौन है. और ये मैं 100% दावे के साथ कह सकता हूं कि आप सब इससे परिचित हैं, इस ग्रंथ से भी और इस ग्रंथकार से भी. अनुमान लगाइए. स्वागत है आपके अनुमान का. Thirty seconds have gone by. Please, we don't have much time now. Give it a guess, a wild guess. कोई आपको इस guess पे mark नहीं देने वाला है.
सर, चरक.
चरक संहिता बाय चरक अच्छा एक अनुमान था, बट दुर्भाग्यवश ये गलत है. ये चरक संहिता का मैं उल्लेख नहीं कर रहा हूं. एक और कोई, बट धन्यवाद आपका, आपने प्रयास किया. एक और कोई अनुमान लगाना चाहेगा? इनफैक्ट कुछ लगता है सभी लोग या तो चले गए हैं या फिर नाम के वास्ते लॉगिन करके कहीं और कुछ दिशा में भटक गए. कोई बात नहीं, कम से कम जो लोग सुन रहे हैं उनको अगले 10 मिनट में मैं खत्म भी करना चाहूंगा इसको. ठीक है. ये वास्तव में मैं अर्थशास्त्र से लिया हूं, और अर्थशास्त्र का जो द्वितीय अध्याय है वो धातुशास्त्र रसायन शास्त्र से संबंधित है, जहां पे राजकोष में प्रवेश करने वाले जो रत्न हैं अथवा सोना, चांदी और विभिन्न प्रकार के जो धातु हैं उनको कैसे उपलब्ध किया जाए, उनको कैसे, उनका शोधन कैसे किया जाए, फिर उनको, उनकी शुद्धता को कैसे परखी जाए और उनसे बने आभूषण आकृतियों का आकलन कैसा हो, उनसे मिश्र धातु कैसे बनाया जाए, इन सब का बहुत ही विस्तार रूप में उल्लेख है अर्थशास्त्र में। अर्थशास्त्र तो उससे तो हम सभी लोग परिचित हैं, बट प्रायः हम उसे एक धातुशास्त्र अथवा रसायन शास्त्र के दृष्टिकोण से कभी देखे नहीं होंगे। बट अभी तो मेरा इसमें ये बिल्कुल कहने का दावा नहीं है, या फिर मैं ये दावा नहीं कर रहा हूं कि कौटिल्य जो थे वो आधुनिक जो फेस डायग्राम एक भाषा है जिसके माध्यम से मिश्र धातु बनाते हैं आज आधुनिक समय में, मेरा ये कहना बिल्कुल नहीं है कि आचार्य कौटिल्य ने फेस डायग्राम का निर्माण किया था। ये बिल्कुल एक तरह से मूर्खता की एक पराकाष्ठा होगी अगर मैं ऐसा कहता या कोई भी ऐसे कहता। तो तात्पर्य ऐसा नहीं है। सच्चाई क्या है कि वो मिश्र धातु बनाए थे, कैसे बनाए थे इसका उल्लेख हमें नहीं मिलता है, बट प्रमाण इतना मिलता है कि वो बनाए थे। लेकिन आज वर्तमान काल में हम उस मिश्र धातु को बनाने के लिए एक फेस डायग्राम का सहायता लेते हैं, जिससे हमें प्रत्यक्ष पता चल जाता है कि अगर मुझे ऐसा धातु, मिश्र धातु बनाना है जिसमें 80% सोना हो, 20% तांबा हो, तो मुझे कितने तापमान तक उसको ले जाना होगा इत्यादि। तो ये अर्थशास्त्र का एक उदाहरण था। और जो कसौटी में रगड़ के सोने को जो परखने की जो विधि है, अब अपने यहाँ आज भी किसी भी कस्बे में चले जाएंगे, छोटे से गांव में चले जाएंगे जहां एक सोनार का दुकान होगा, या फिर बहुत सारे सोनार के दुकान शहरों में भी कसौटी का पत्थर तो प्रचलन में है, इतना प्रचलन में है कि ये एक भाषा में मुहावरा का भी एक रूप ले चुका है कि इसको कसौटी के पत्थर में रगड़ करके इसने अपना प्रमाणित किया। तो ये एक जो पद्धति है कम से कम लिखित रूप में 2000 वर्षों से हमारी सभ्यता में है। तो अपने आप से एक प्रश्न कीजिए कि अगर ये वैज्ञानिक सोच नहीं होती तो क्या हम इन सब चीजों की परिकल्पना भी कर सकते? तो डिटेल्स में एक सॉलिड स्टेट रिएक्शन का भी हमें डिस्क्रिप्शन अर्थशास्त्र में मिलता है, गोल्ड को प्यूरिफाई करने के संदर्भ में। एक और इंपॉर्टेंट धातु आता है लोहा। अब ये शब्द लोहा हिंदी में आज कल हम वर्तमान का समय में यूज करते हैं, बट इस शब्द का प्रयोग विभिन्न कालों में विभिन्न अर्थ से रहा है। एक समय पे लोह का अर्थ सामान्य धातु को संबोधन करने के लिए प्रयोग होता था। तो कृष्ण अयस इत्यादि शब्द का भी प्रयोग हुआ है लोहे के लिए। तो ऋग्वेद से सबसे पहले हमें उल्लेख एक मिलता है। अगर हम यह शब्द अयस को आयरन माने अथवा धातु माने, तो ऋग्वेद में एक उल्लेख आता है एक जंग का, एक युद्ध का, जिसमें विष्पला नामक एक पात्र, अभी भी भाषा शास्त्रियों में ये सामंजस्य नहीं है कि ये विष्पला एक योद्धा थी अथवा एक महिला थी, महिला योद्धा थी अथवा एक जानवर था। जो भी था या थी या रहा, इतना पता चलता है कि वो युद्ध में उसके पैर टूट गए थे या एक पैर टूट गया था, और अश्वनी कुमार ने उनको या उसको एक धातु से बना अथवा लोहे से बना पैर प्रदान किया। सद्यो जंघाम आयसी विष्पलायै धने हिते सर्तवे प्रत्यधत्तम। ये वाक्य को बहुत भाषा शास्त्रियों ने भी इसको स्वीकारा है कि यहाँ पे एक पैर देने का उल्लेख आया है। तो इसके अलावा अर्थशास्त्र में भी हमें बहुत उल्लेख मिलता है लोहे का इत्यादि। एक जो पते की बात यहाँ पे मैं आपका ध्यान आकर्षित करना चाहूंगा कि जो उत्खनन के माध्यम से हमें जितने भी अवशेष मिले हैं लोहे के, भारत के जिस किसी राज्य से, चाहे वो उत्तर का हो, दक्षिण का हो, पूरब का हो, पश्चिम का हो, ये लोहे के जो अवशेष हमें उत्खनन से मिले हैं, इनका स्वरूप सामान्य है। अगर द्वारका में उत्खनन से मिले लोहे का अवशेष अभी तक जंग रहित है, तो वही सुल्तानगंज या बिहार से प्राप्त लोहे का अवशेष, उत्खनन से प्राप्त लोहे का अवशेष उसी प्रकार का है, या तिरुनेलवेली तमिलनाडु का हो अथवा ये दिल्ली का हो। ये तब ही संभव है अगर यह जंग रहित लोहे का उत्पाद एक केंद्रीय स्थल में हो करके वहां से इसका बंटवारा होता था, अथवा जंग रहित लोहे बनाने की प्रक्रिया का जो ज्ञान था वो सर्वसामान्य था, जिसके कारण लोग जहां भी रहें वो उस विधि से जंग रहित लोहे का उत्पाद करते थे, जिसके कारण आज हमें उत्खनन के अवशेष, जो लोहे के अवशेष मिलते हैं, वो सर्वसामान्य दिखते हैं। मेहरौली का वर्तमान काल में जो मेहरौली में ये लौह स्तंभ है वो तो विश्वविख्यात है, बट इसके पीछे जो एक और सूचना है कि ये आज से जब ये बना था 16 साल पहले, तब से ये मेहरौली दिल्ली में नहीं है। ये लगभग 600-700 साल तक मध्य प्रदेश के बुंदेलखंड इलाके में एक विष्णुपादगिरी नामक एक भव्य विष्णु मंदिर का ध्वज स्तंभ था, जिसको कुतुबुद्दीन ऐबक आक्रांता जैसे कुतुबुद्दीन ऐबक का जब वहां पे मंदिर, उसके हाथों द्वारा जब वो मंदिर टूटा, तो उसने क्या किया कि ये ध्वज स्तंभ को यथावत वहां से उठा करके वो दिल्ली ले गया। अब उसके बाद उसका देहांत हुआ, फिर उसके बाद जो आया शासक इल्तुतमिश, वो कुतुबुद्दीन ऐबक के स्मरण में एक स्मृति चिन्ह वहां खड़ा किया, जिसको हम आज कुतुब मीनार बोलते हैं। और जिस स्थान में कुतुब मीनार खड़ा है वो वहां पर एक बहुत ही विशाल जैन मंदिर था। तो उस मंदिर को तोड़ करके, उसको सपाट करके, जमीन को सपाट करके कुतुब मीनार खड़ा किया, और ये ध्वज स्तंभ जो विष्णुपादगिरी बुंदेलखंड इलाके से लाया गया था वो वहां पे रखा गया। तो आज हम इसको कुतुब मीनार से जानते हैं, जहां पे ये आयरन पिलर भी है, और ये 16 साल हो गए हैं इसके बने हुए, बट अभी तक ये इसमें जंग नहीं लगा है, अभी तक ये जंग रहित लोहा है। इसके साथ साथ तो जो दमिश्क तलवार, विश्वविख्यात दमिश्क तलवार जो है, दमिश्क एक वास्तव में सीरिया नामक एक देश का एक स्थान है, एक शहर है, और भारत से ही बंदा गुलाम बना करके लोहाकार को यहां से लेकर के गए थे, जिनके पास ये निपुणता, ये कुशलता थी कि वो ऐसे स्टील का, ऐसे इस्पात का निर्माण कर सके जो कि लाइट वेट है, जिसकी धार जो है वो जल्दी धार जाती नहीं है, और इतना भारी नहीं है कि इसको हम वास्तव में युद्ध में लेकर के लड़ सके और कई सर को काट सकें, क्योंकि युद्ध के स्थल में ही तलवार का प्रयोग होता है। और पता चला एक तलवार, एक सर काट दिया, उसके बाद उसकी धार चली गई, तो वो तो फिर तलवार काम नहीं आएगा। और तलवार इतनी भी भारी नहीं होनी चाहिए कि उसको उठाते उठाते ही लोग अगर परेशान हो जाएं तो भी काम नहीं आएगा। तो उसमें ये जो दमिश्क तलवार था वो एक बहुत ही स्पेसिफिक स्टील से बनता था, जिसका नाम अंग्रेजी में वुड्स स्टील बोलते हैं, जो वास्तव में भारत भाषा के वांग्मय से गया हुआ शब्द है। और ये मेरे लिए गर्व की बात है कि मेरी मातृभाषा तमिल से ये शब्द गया है। तमिल में ये शब्द है उरुक, जिससे बना शब्द उक, जिससे बना शब्द वुड्स। तो ये वुड्स स्टील से बना डमास्कस सोड का एक और आयाम है हमारे भारत के, प्राचीन भारत के लौह धातु में हमारी विख्यात का। ये इतना मतलब उस समय पे प्रचलित था और इतना विख्यात था कि ये काल्पनिक चित्र है, वास्तव में कोई फोटोग्राफी नहीं है। वर्तमान काल में अगर आप ये रांची जाएंगे, जहां पे सेल स्टील अथॉरिटी ऑफ इंडिया लिमिटेड का ऑफिस है, वहां आपको ये चित्र, काल्पनिक चित्र मिलेगा। ये अलेक्जेंडर हैं जो पीले कपड़े में है और ये काले कपड़े में राजा पुरु हैं और इनके पीछे इनके सेवक हैं और सेवक के हाथ में है एक सोने के रंग का डिब्बा। वास्तव में ये सोने का डिब्बा बोलते हैं लोग, और डिब्बे के अंदर जो चीज है वो बहुत ही महत्वपूर्ण है। वो था एक लोहे का टुकड़ा, स्टील, इस्पात का टुकड़ा। So you can imagine the importance given to the woods steel manufactured in India, that it was gifted by placing a brick of steel inside a golden box. हम देखिए कहां से कहां हमारा पतन हुआ है कि आज अगर हम एक सोने का छोटा भी आभूषण खरीदते हैं तो उसको घर में रखने के भय से बैंक के एक लोहे लॉकर में जाकर के रखते हैं, और वही यहाँ पे एक इस्पात का टुकड़ा को सोने के डिब्बे में रख करके हम भेंट के रूप में दिए थे एक जमाने में, आज से कम 1800-2000 वर्ष पूर्व। उसी तरह से तांबे का भी हमारे यहाँ पे प्रचुर मात्रा में उल्लेख हुआ है। मेरे पास समय कम है तो मैं थोड़ा इसको जल्दी से आगे बढ़ाऊंगा, या फिर आपके पास समय है तो मैं 5-10 मिनट और एक्स्ट्रा ले सकता हूं। तांबे के संदर्भ में जो एक मिश्र धातु पीतल है वो बहुत ही मुख्य है। पीतल दो प्रकार के होते हैं, एक एक्सीडेंटल ब्रास एंड द सेकेंड इज इंटेंशनल ब्रास। ब्रास is an alloy of copper and zinc. Accidental brass is when you smelt the copper ore, you don't purify the copper ore, accidentally the zinc ore also gets mixed, and because of the crystal size of copper and zinc are comparable, they form a good alloy. Now when accidentally the copper and the zinc ore gets smelted together, you get a brass which is called an accidental brass, where you cannot find the percentage of zinc more than 15%. But there have been instances in India where you have brass with zinc content close to 30 or more than 30%. And this is only possible if we mix pure zinc with pure copper. So for that we needed pure zinc, and very proudly we can say India was the first ever country, our ancient Indians were the first metallurgists who engineered the metallurgical process of extracting pure zinc. Who says this? I'll very quickly skip to the zinc itself directly, because zinc, unlike other alloys, and this bronze is also, I'll come to zinc after a minute. ब्रॉन्ज जो कि कांस्य के नाम से मशहूर है, ये हमारे हड़प्पन समय से हम इससे परिचित हैं, क्योंकि सौभाग्यवश ये हमारे पाठ्यक्रम में जो हड़प्पा मोहनजोदड़ो का सभ्यता के बारे में आता है तो ये डांसिंग गर्ल, ये नर्तकी का एक चित्र उसमें दिखाते हैं। और यकीन मानिए आज जिस पद्धति से कांस्य के आकृतियों को बनाने की जो विधि है वो यथावत वैसे ही है जो कम से कम 3000-4000 साल पहले हड़प्पा में ये नर्तकी के उत्पादन में जो विधि का प्रयोग हुआ था, उसका नाम है मधु उच्चिष्ठान विधि, जिसको हम गर्व से अंग्रेजी में द लॉस्ट वैक्स मेथड बोलते हैं। तो इवन नाउ दिस इज इन प्रैक्टिस। if you go to the Chhattisgarh area, they use it for making the dokra, where it's using iron alloys. If you go to South, or if you go to Bengal side, they make of the bronze there. The bronze artifacts of Pala architecture from Bengal are some of the exquisite examples of Pala bronze. Of course, what is currently being very famous is a Chola bronze from Tamil Nadu. So if you go to a place like Swami Malai close to Tanjavur, even now this is in practice. So zinc is a very difficult metal to extract because of its physical property that the moment it liquefies, it gets vaporized very quickly. So the indigenous brain of Indian metallurgists in the past had to invent a closed furnace, which an artistic impression of the same, the cross section is shown, where an empty pot, एक खाली घड़े को नीचे जमीन के अंदर उसको दफना देते थे, और ऊपर वाले घड़े में जो उसका जिंक कार्बोनेट जो ओर है और जो भी भेषज सामग्री है उसको पूरा भर करके एक छोटा सा छेद छोड़ करके इसको ऊपर से आग लगाते थे, ताकि जो ये रिएक्शन मैंने पहले स्लाइड में दिखाया था, ये रिएक्शन होकर के जब जिंक फॉर्म होता है तो ये जिंक वेपर एटमॉस्फेयर में एस्केप ना हो करके ये गुरुत्वाकर्षण के माध्यम से नीचे आ जाता है, और नीचे क्योंकि आग नहीं है, तापमान का ऊपर से बहुत ही कम है, तो ये लिक्विफाई होकर के लिक्विड स्टेट में नीचे वाले घड़े में रह जाता है। और 2-3 दिनों के बाद जब ये अग्निशमन हो जाता है तो नीचे से घड़े को निकालेंगे तो वी विल गेट close to 100% pure zinc. That's how our ancestors made pure zinc. There are archaeological excavation to show it as a proof, and above all, a foreigner has given us a certificate. Here a foreigner is Craddock, who said they made many tens of thousands of tons of zinc, and this is the earliest dated zinc mines and earliest known zinc center, production center in the industrial scale in the whole world. Okay, so our preoccupation with the thing has been always there with the metals, which continues to even this day. It's not that we lost it in the middle, but now, of course, it is not having the center stage or patronization, but still the know-hows of processing the metals are still in vogue. Okay, so I will skip the remaining portions, just show you some apparatus. Like this is a distillation apparatus which we still use, and in the chemistry laboratories also you have the glass counterparts of them. Then you have description of furnaces, description of different type of furnaces. Last slide, and I'll stop with this. This is an excerpt taken from Rasarnava, where this is the first ever documentation of flame test of metals. That which metal will impart which kind of color to the flame. Okay, so the first ever documentation of such that process is seen in this text called Rasarnava, but unfortunately we have no accurate dating of this text. People have dated it all the way from 300 BCE to 1200 CE, and we do not know accurately who the author is also, but we know that this text exists. There are, again, people had arranged metals in the order of reactivity. Suvarnam, Rajatam, Tamram, Tekshnam, Mangam, Bhujangamam, Lohantu Shadvidam Tacha Yatha Purvam Tad Akshayam. Akshayam is the word that which does not degenerate or decay, and the metals are arranged in that order. Yatha Purvam. So Purvam is Akshaya. So Suvarna, that's why it is immortal, it is Akshaya. And as you go from Suvarna to Bhujanga, the reactivity of the metals increases. So they had this kind of a very empirical and practical knowledges. They had different, there are examples to prove the scientific temper that was existing almost 1200 years back. I will perhaps use this as a last slide, and I'll stop definitely here. People may ask a question, okay, if we were so great, why is it that in our GDP, which was once ruling the entire world, contributing to almost 1/3 of the world GDP. Why are we grappling at single digit now? Okay, we were having invaders. Why can't we kind of relive this past and really become Vishwaguru overnight? No, there are problems. There are some genuine problems which need genuine solutions to solve them. But हम में से कुछ ऐसे तथाकथित बुद्धिजीवी हैं जो प्रॉब्लम्स तो है, हम ये नकार नहीं रहे हैं कि हमारे सोसाइटी में प्रॉब्लम नहीं है, हम ये नहीं बोल रहे हैं, बट उन प्रॉब्लम का कारण क्या है, तो उसके लिए मैं ये स्लाइड को आपको बता करके आई विल स्टॉप माय स्पीच, stop the session. This is a story, by the way. It's a comic story. Some of you may know it, that there was a scientist who was working with frogs. So what he did, he got hold of a frog and he cut one leg of the frog. And he asked the frog to jump. The frog jumped. Then what he did, he again cut the second leg of the frog. And he told the frog to jump, the frog jumped. Then he cut like that all the 4 legs of the frog too. And then once all the 4 legs were cut, जब चारों पैर कट गए उस मेंढक के, फिर उस साइंटिस्ट ने फिर से बोला मेंढक को कि ये मेंढक कूदो. तो संभवतः वो मेंढक के 4 पैर भी नहीं थे अभी, तो कूद नहीं पाया. तो उस महान बुद्धिजीवी वैज्ञानिक ने ये वैज्ञानिक निष्कर्ष निकाला कि जब मेंढक के 4 पैर कट जाते हैं तो वो मेंढक बहरा हो जाता है. तो कहने का तात्पर्य यहाँ पे ये था कि समस्याएं हमारी सोसाइटी में है, बट उसका हम क्या कारण दे रहे हैं, उससे हम क्या निष्कर्ष निकाल रहे हैं, उस पे भी हमें थोड़ा वैज्ञानिक तरीके से सोचना चाहिए. वरना जैसे रदरफोर्ड ने इस कोटेशन में कहा रामन को कि हम किताबी कीड़ों को ही उत्पन्न करते रहेंगे और एक साम्राज्य पर राज्य करने वाले शासकों को हम कभी उत्पादन नहीं कर पाएंगे अपने पाठ्यक्रम के माध्यम से. तो इसी से मैं सबको फिर धन्यवाद देना चाहूंगा. एंड अगेन दिस बीइंग द 150th year of Aurobindo, I would like to quote him. What he says, break the molds of the past, but keep safe its gains and its spirit, or else thou hast no future. So with this, I stop. I thank you for your patience and your time. I have exceeded by 7 minutes, but we can compensate it. I have time. So if some of you would like to ask any urgent question, you can ask. Or you can also...
Sir, myself Shashank. सर मैं फिलॉसफी डिपार्टमेंट से हूँ. सर मुझे लगता है कि कहीं न कहीं जैसे कि इंडियन सिस्टम में मेटाफिजिक्स और एथिक्स अलग अलग हुए नहीं रिलीजियस सिस्टम में, तो जो भी व्यक्ति मीन्स जो भी ग्रेट स्कॉलर्स हुए उनको जैसे इन सब चीजों में हो सकता है उतना इंटरेस्ट ना हो कि हम चीजों को डॉक्यूमेंट करें. मीन्स नॉलेज है तो दिस शुड बी ओपन फॉर ऑल. इस टाइप की चीजों पे हो सकता है कहीं न कहीं विश्वास करने की वजह से हिस्टोरिकल डॉक्यूमेंटेशन को उन्होंने अवॉइड किया हो सर. और मुझे लगता है इसी चक्कर में बहुत सी चीजें जो है हम मिस कर गए और उनपे जैसे क्लेम नहीं कर पाते हैं.
सही है, मैं मानता हूं इस पे. दैट्स राइट. धन्यवाद आपका. अगर और किसी का कोई टिप्पणी या प्रश्न हो तो स्वागत है. तो शशांक जी, क्योंकि आप दर्शन के भूमिका से हैं, तो जो मैंने गणित और धातुशास्त्र से जो उदाहरण लेकर के बोले, तो क्या वो आपके समझ में आए अथवा ये फिर बहुत ही प्रासंगिक नहीं था?
जी सर, बिल्कुल समझ में आए हैं. और एक्चुअली मैंने मीन्स ये जो 10th और 12th तक के मैथ्स हैं वो मेरा स्ट्रॉन्ग सूट रहा है. इससे पहले मैंने बैंकिंग और इन सब में इंटरव्यूज दिए हुए हैं, तो मुझे समझ में आ रहा था सर.
धन्यवाद. ठीक. Anybody else would like to have any comment, critical comment or any question? You are welcome. I'll wait for 1 more minute and 7:10 we can close.
Yes, sir. Just want to congratulate you. And it was really an enriching session. I never realized that you are from science background. I'm from economics department, but it was so interesting. You presented in such an interesting way. Sometimes it seems to be from history, sometimes from science. So it was completely interdisciplinary. Overall, it was an informative and interesting session. So it's
Thank you,
nice
madam.
to
Thank you.
hear
Thank
you.
And I must also apologize to that particular faculty member because आदत से मजबूर हूँ कि क्लास लेते वक्त भी अगर कुछ डिस्ट्रैक्शन आता है तो थोड़ा मेरा I get distracted. So I personally apologize to that particular faculty on whom I had used a strong word. Yeah. Okay, so
सर
हाँ बिप्लब दा बोलो.
सर वो उस दिमाग में अब तक वो नहीं आया कि मेरा आधा पा क्या हुआ विप्लव में.
आधा प को छोड़ना चाहिए. मतलब
अच्छा.
वो व्यंजन छोड़ना चाहिए जिसके साथ कोई स्वर जुड़ा नहीं है.
अच्छा.
ठीक.
अच्छा.
ओके धन्यवाद.
थैंक यू सर. थैंक यू.
थैंक यू. ओके
थैंक यू सर.
नमस्ते.